Hello, my amazing Play the Game podcast community. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We have Matty Marshall, episode 2. The saga continues with the Marshall madness. It is so much fun. We're having the best time ever with Matty, and so fortunate to have him on the show. Such a well of knowledge, such a well-rounded person, and just a great guy to hang out with and have some fun with. We shoot the breeze about paintball, life, traveling, and everything in between. Non-stop laughs and good times. So we really hope you enjoy the show, and we just want to keep pushing paintball to the masses and having fun and playing the game. That's what it's all about. So we hope you enjoy this episode. It is brought to you by G2 Paintball. It's a paintball athletics company designed to help you become the best paintball athlete imaginable. It is run by two of the best guys in the world, Rusty Glaze, who is the Dynasty coach, and Victor Gamboa, who is our assistant coach and helps Rusty with making sure that we're all dialed in and ready to go when we get to tournaments. So we have an athletics program that is taking athleticism in paintball and pushing it to the boundaries, making you the most athletic paintball player possible. All the moves that you're going to be making on the paintball field is exactly what they train for, and they're training to maximize performance on and off the field. So not only are you going to be crushing it when you step onto the field, also when you're just living your normal day-to-day life, you're going to be feeling great. Your body's going to feel good. And it is used by Dynasty, and it is pushing paintball players to become better athletes and go pro in the industry, because that's the goal of G2 Paintball. They want to nurture the future of pro paintball players and make sure we have professional paintball for many years to come. Really spectacular things these guys are doing. And actually, if you're in the Arizona area, on August 15th at Wild West Paintball, there will be a G2 training athletics program going on out there, as well as August 29th at Battlezone Paintball, September 12th at Wild West Paintball, September 26th at Battlezone, October 10th at Wild West Paintball, and October 24th at Battlezone Paintball. So that's 6 total, and all in the Arizona area. Obviously, if you're not in the Arizona area, I would still make the trip over. It's only like 4 hours to California, and the surrounding areas you should all join in as well, and we can't wait to see everybody there. If you're interested in that, they will have details up within the next 48 hours. So if it's not up right now, check back in a couple days on g2paintball.com. and you can get signed up for those training dates, which is going to be amazing. I'll be out there, Rusty will be out there, Victor will be out there, and we're going to be teaching paintball athleticism at the highest level and helping paintball players go pro. It's really amazing what these guys are doing, so come on out to Arizona and support. Like I said, check g2paintball.com within the next 48 hours, and they'll have information there for you. This show is also brought to you by the spectacular Savage Paintball. This is a magnetic paintball field that helps you visualize the paintball field. So it's a magnetic field board designed to help you visualize the field in unique and powerful ways like never before. It is a customizable board that you can design with your favorite logos, team logo, or you can pick up a board that has the Play the Game podcast logo on it as well. There are limitless possibilities of things that you can do with these boards, and it's really helping players visualize paintball in a whole new way like never before. It is a tournament layout visualization tool, and I know that I'm really using it to hone in on all the different shots and gaps and different ways that I can attack the field. It's an amazing tool to visualize how I'm going to approach each layout. It has magnetic technology to keep the bunkers in place so they don't move around, and you'll always be able to see the field. If you have it in your living room, your bedroom, or wherever, you can see the paintball field and always be visualizing how you're going to attack that field. Just when you're, rummaging about your house and walking around, you'll always be able to look at your paintball field, which is really cool. I even nerd out and hold it up and see all the angles. And if you want to really take it to the next level, you can get a laser pointer and start shooting them through all the cuts and do some fun stuff like that. One of our followers actually came up with that and messaged us that he's using his laser pointer. I thought that was pretty cool. It's pretty amazing, and paper field layouts, they're out. Savage boards are in, and if you want to check out these boards that we're using for visualization, you can go to savagepaintball.com, and if you use code PLAYTHEGAME, you'll get 10% off on any custom boards. Huge shout out to those guys. They are amazing, doing amazing things for paintball and helping players visualize the game in new ways, which is astounding. I know that it's been really powerful for myself and Marcelo, and we really appreciate them. And last but definitely not least, the show is brought to you by Transfuse. I'm sure you've heard Marcelo and myself raving and ranting about Transfuse, and we truly mean it, man. This stuff is a game changer. It is a premium rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula scientifically designed to replenish at the cellular level, and they use all natural ingredients, which is amazing. I know that I personally and Marcelo, we don't let anything into our regimen unless it's good for us. So it's amazing that they're using all natural ingredients to do this and create something that is truly helping people have a better immune system and stay hydrated. It combats dehydration, mental exhaustion, and supports your immune system, and is also a sweet little hangover remedy. If you've had too much to drink, you can have some Transfuse the next day and feel okay. You know, you're not going to be hurting as bad. It has zinc, which is an essential vitamin in regulating immunity, treating the common cold, and improves brain function and memory. And it also has 6 milligrams of vitamin B6 to help lower cholesterol, boost brain function, and aids in making your body just feel spectacular. There is 1,500 milligrams of vitamin C, and it's used by athletes, festival goers, first responders, military service, and people recovering from or trying to prevent the cold, which is absolutely huge in today's day and age with COVID-19 and all the madness going on with that. So you can take Transfuse and really boost your immunity, which is huge. It's like Gatorade, Pedialyte, coconut water, Emergency. They all came together and created this spectacular Transfuse monster that is taking over the world and helping people hydrate and stay healthy. And we absolutely love these guys. Can't say enough good things about the Transfuse family. So grateful for the partnership with them and working together. If you want to contact them, you can go to translabs.com. That's translabs.com. And if you use the code PLAYTHEGAME, you'll get 10% off at checkout. So be sure to check those guys out. They're really doing amazing things and have had a huge impact in the paintball industry. Absolutely love them. And thank you to all of our sponsors that help us out with the show. We can't do this without you, and we are so appreciative of all the love and support. We really hope you enjoy this show. We had so much fun with Matty, and it's just a great show, great guy. And so without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon.
Great shot by all the guys, though. Tyler Harmon saved that game.
Came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
Mr. Marshall, back at it again for round 2, which is just unbelievable that we did that show, and literally 3.5 hours in, we were like, and we got another 3 hours in us or what? But we, are happy that you're able to come right back on so we could get back into it.
I brought a much bigger bottle of wine this time, boys.
Let them know.
Nice,
I literally have nothing crossed off my paper from the last show. I had like all these questions, but that's the beautiful thing about talking to you, Matty, is you're just, like I said in the last one, you're just a database, man. You're like the Akashic records of paintball.
The Akashic records, hell yeah, dude. So that's a great poll right there. Hell yeah, I'll take that any day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, baby. And we just, we didn't get enough with all that info, and we're ready for some more. This is going to be a little bit more regimented for you. We're going to kind of keep you a little more on a leash here. We got
good luck. I told you I brought a bigger bottle of wine, bro. Good luck.
Yeah, I know it's a mission, but we're going to try. We're going to try with you. You are, dude, outstanding individual, paintball player, the show leader of Go Sports. You host Go Sports, and everything that is that. You actually just got back from Texas, and you were hosting the Ultimate Shootout. Kind of talk to us about that.
Look, man, I'm just really excited that we still have paintball around in some way, shape, or form, and we basically rolled this out. I'd always wanted to, and I mean, I didn't sat down. We can talk about the 1-on-1 format, but I remember sitting down with Short talking about what is the Pro Tour currently.
Yeah,
years ago. And
he told me about that. He did.
Yeah, we'd always wanted it. We'd had multiple meetings. And then he got hired by HK, and he was kind of like, well, here's something that I have. What do you guys think? So anyway, but And then, like we told some of the funny one-on-one stories before, I just think the one-on-one concept could be a good, look at the paintball one-on-one, 2,500 on 2,500. There's so many different ways to play this game as far as the number count is concerned. But with one-on-one, there's no teammates. Like one of the things we constantly say, no teammates to save you, none to help you. It's just you and your opponent. And I think that it can definitely highlight things that we have to wait until a game devolves into that, or we get to that at the very end. So I just think it's a cool thing. And it's created because we needed to do something, man. I'm not gonna sit on my goddamn couch and let this shit light on fire while,
That's right.
being as safe as we possibly can, of course.
Totally, of course. And that was why I was such a huge proponent of getting on the, playing any paintball with the one-on-one that I did with Short for the Pro Tour. And then obviously, I want to dip my toes in there and shoot around with the buzzers too at some point.
Bro, but, are you kidding me? We got to get you in there. Yeah. Both you guys, this is like tailor-made for your style of ball. Tyler, obviously you're like the Greek god. You are the Achilles essentially of one-on-ones right now. Yeah. We only have the very first one out, episode 2 kind of, so we're doing it like 001, 002. We just filmed 3 and 4. And we had to do that because we want to do it live, but it's tough, man. It's just difficult to get guys there with the pandemic and, in Texas and Paintball Fit, it's scorching hot there. There's always some sort of breeze blowing. So that's good. And then everyone was forced to wear masks, while you're, not playing. So that was good. And then we did the divisional stuff, but essentially it was kind of created with this in mind. We created the Ultimate Shootout, not the rule set, but just we decided to bring the concept out. We eventually were going to bring something like that out anyway, just because it needs to exist. And HK, they decided to do the Pro Tour thing, a similar situation there. They've been doing the Pro Tours in the past and then realized that there's just nothing happening with tournament paintball. So why not, let's just roll this back out and see if we can get guys to come out. And again, try to be as safe as we possibly can.
That's right.
But as far as the rule set was concerned, it actually was pretty constructive. Back in the day when Shorty and we kind of disagreed a little. I love Brandon Short, and I think that, it was a really cool thing. I like the Pro Tour, but when we were having discussions about kind of what exactly, and that's everyone having to do a bunch of other stuff, because it's time consuming and difficult to pull these webcasts off and expensive. And so, this was always something we kind of had on the back burner, that we wanted to attack, but we didn't have it exactly dialed in. But I was pleasantly surprised with how quick the rule set came together, at least for the Ultimate Shootout. And it was, we want to try to tie this in. We want to make it slightly video game-esque, with the kill streaks and that sort of thing. But we want to have multiple objectives. And then we just kind of discussed what those would be. And it all just kind of came together. There was a beta test done. And then it was then he's like, well, we could have you do it and, it's going to be post-produced, or we could port you in. And I was like, fuck that. I'm driving out there, dude. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm driving out.
Dude, the heart right there. I love it.
Yeah. It's just, I just don't really feel comfortable getting on a plane yet because of my mom, and so I just trying to be, and I just feel like I'm in a car. If I'm in a car, I have a little bit more control over who I see. And so you can
way safer.
Yeah. It's just safer. I'm not forced to be locked with strangers, even though, planes, a lot of people don't know this, but planes do have HEPA filters on them, the same filters that exist within surgery rooms. So the air is getting filtered. They are bringing air from the outside. They are condensing it. They are air conditioning it and filtering it. So it's not like you're just getting in a metal box, 100% recirculated air with no filter whatsoever. But not all the viral particles are being caught by those filters. This is an easily Googleable thing, but so it's not exactly, but just luck of the draw who you get sat next to, man.
Dude, flying has been great lately. They don't book any seats next to you, at least on Delta. It's been fantastic. Every seat's first class.
There you go.
Yeah. So
but it's still scary, man. Even I gotta,
I've been weighing it.
Totally.
Fuck, man, do I want to spend this much time in the car? And
when you could drive through the scorching deserts of Arizona.
That has its own dangers too.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Dude.
Especially when you're going through Arizona.
It was so hot in Arizona and West Texas, bro, that they were just truck tires were just falling apart. I saw a truck tire blow off of a truck as I was driving by it. And then I think I mentioned this before. It was just nasty, dude. It was I'm just playing slalom with the truck tires. The shit sucked.
on your Instagram, you had the funniest story on your Instagram story. You're like, the earth is just combusting. It's just,
I mean, I'm sure it was some asshole throwing a cigarette out, but who knows? I mean, it was 119 degrees out, maybe at 16 or whatever. I don't know, abysmally hot.
It was
maybe the earth was just spontaneously combusting. So
I doubt it.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
I don't know. When I was a kid,
sorry. I was just going to say that was kind of part of my, I trained out here in Arizona for Pro Tour. So that the heat out here is insane. And it's like, really good conditioning if you can survive it.
Yeah. Oh, you look fresh as a spring daisy at the very end of that. And
I wanted to play some more.
Yeah, you looked like you did. Not only that, but you were pacing around. Like I look up, and as we're kind of doing the undercard, so to speak, and I look up, and in my head, I'm thinking like, bro, I hope Tyler like just chills the fuck out for a little bit and preserves some energy. You're like jumping up and down and pacing, and I'm like thinking, bro, it's like 92 degrees out here. It's not cold. And Paris, California, in case anyone doesn't know, not the nicest part of California. I love the field that we went to. The owner's super cool.
That was
right. Fields and some cool tournament fields, but that's not our best. That's not our best foot forward as far as weather is concerned. Especially this time of year. So you looked fresh as a spring.
Dude, it was nice out there. I felt like, because out here in Arizona it's like 100 plus, so I was like, this is some nice weather.
That's nice for you to say that, but it was not nice. I was there. It was gross, is what it really was. That was just again positive mindset, right? So
that's right.
If you're used to 110, 112, and it's 92. You're thinking this ain't that bad at all.
Yeah, let's party. This is a party out here.
Yeah. But as far as the Ultimate Shootout was concerned, it's funny because it's like anything, man. When something comes out, even when X Ball came out, and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when the cameras aren't on and no one, and I'm just talking to guys, and I'm like, well, what do you guys think? And for a lot of the guys, the salty vets of the world, like
of course,
Fuzzy Jackson is not exactly like the most stoked on every new concept. I mean, he's been in the trenches, grizzled, hardened by they have yet to win an event like that. That dude's he's trying his ass off over time, or he has tried to become one of the best. He is. Obviously, he won the first one.
He's outstanding. Matt is a phenomenal paintball player. He's good. And
really is.
Not my favorite when we're on the field. I definitely want to eat their lunch every time we step on there. But yeah, he knows how to shoot a paintball gun pretty good.
So, in his mix of, and that's just why I think you would feast in the Ultimate Shootout as well too, is just the mix of aggression and snapshot and off the break shots. I mean, all of that kind of plays in. Then, are you going to go for kill streaks, or are you going to try to hit buzzers? Obviously, a mix of the two is the greatest. If you go back and look at the stats, Meter making it into the finals with Matt, but he had twice as many points on the kill streaks than Matt Jackson did. But Matt Jackson was just more aggressive, and that aggression, and it was interesting because you kind of like lulled Keith in a little bit and kind of sucked him in using that interesting strategy, which I did not think you're going to employ. But then it became kind of, I wouldn't say blatantly obvious, but after a couple rounds, I was like, oh, I see what he's trying to do here. He's trying to get Keith to kind of like get super tired and frustrated by beating him at that snapshot game, and then push the issue maybe a little bit. But he just. It's kind of like, dude, if you roll into a fight and you're taking a guy down and he has no answer for it, well, it makes this a good idea to just keep taking him
down, get those 2 points. Yep, each time.
You want to win a champ. It's like Usman's getting all this shit and there's hilarious with the memes, like the internet is just undefeated. But there was I saw this meme today and it was like Usman, and then it was like versus Masvidal's foot. Battle. It was like in the Ultimate Foot stomping championships.
That'd be a great one. Holy sheesh.
Yeah, but it was just, because you just stomped on that dude's foot for essentially the entire time. But anyway, I think I think both these things can coexist. I like the fact that there's two different rule sets. It's like, Strike Force, and, it's like MMA when, or jiu-jitsu or boxing. Like, these are all combat sports. They all have different rule sets. They all have different ways and fields you would play the game.
The best way I've come to understand it is like Pro Tour is like a stand-up gentleman's boxing match. And just one of the old Irish whoppers. And then, the Ultimate Shootout is like your MMA. It's a bunch of different tactics, and there's a lot going on in there.
Yeah. It is very, I think that's an interesting analogy. Pro Tour is a little more classic one-on-one. I like the different spots you can get the kills from. Adding the buzzers in and it is a smaller field. It just adds a little bit more like gladiatorial, fixed bayonets, meet in the middle type
Yeah.
But not everybody not everyone utilizes those buzzers. I mean, you saw Meter make it all the way to the finals, just playing a more kind of methodical game, winning gunfights and going on kill streaks, which also works too. But we saw Matt Jackson win the event, even though he had 3 really close games. They were all incredibly exciting to watch, and he definitely earned it the hard way. Mm-hmm. But he had more in the bag of tricks. He had a more thorough strategy, and I don't necessarily think that he consciously decided that. It just evolved that way, and that's the way he played that format. So that was kind of really cool to see. And then afterwards, I talked to him like, "Well, did you like it?" And this is even before he won. This was before he went on to the finals, and he was like, "Dude, honestly, I thought, it's one-on-ones. I thought it was going to be boring as shit, but I'm like I really enjoyed the hell out of it, man." And that was what everybody said. And Ryan Brandon hit me up before I drove out because he had been and talked to the dudes, and so he was really stoked about it. And he was like, "Matty, I'm not gonna lie, I did not, I wasn't all about the one-on-ones until I went out and kind of checked it out myself, and that's why I really want to be involved in the coaching side of this too." And he's he was helped Meter get into the finals. So
absolutely.
And I just think, but it is kind of cool with the one-on-ones is that having a coach it's just like anything, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever, if you're trying, I don't care what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do it well, even if you're the best in the world, like the best football players in the world have a coach, best tennis players in the world have a coach, best golfers in the world, they're doing shit that their caddy could never do, but they still have a caddy and a coach. So they have the caddy being like, "Bro, don't hit that 9. You need to hit your pitching wedge. What the fuck are you thinking right now, dude? Are you crazy? Hit your goddamn pitching wedge or hit your 9." And then they have a coach. It's like Phil Mickelson, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, was just posting something yesterday about how he had like 4 glitches in his swing that he identified. And so again, the best in the world still have coaches, even though those are like that dude's going to walk into the Golf Hall of Fame, but he still has a guy that's looking at his swing and being like, dude, you're kind of coming in too steep on your descent when you're first getting in there, your little early hip turn, just like little tiny things. It's like with Scotty, Scotty lost to Spica in the Pro Tour because he had a super easy tell that Spica picked up on, and he kept going up to the spot, he'd pop the top and go to his right hand, and he did it every single time. And it was just, if he had a coach going over there and being like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing? Stop making a move up, immediately popping the top and go to the right hand." It's super predictable. He's just owning you because he knows exactly what you're going to do. If you only are throwing overhand rights, then I know to avoid your overhand right. It's not that difficult. So, but yeah, it's just, I'm stoked on it, man. I'm really glad that we're doing it because there's nothing else out there right now. I mean, we just had all the stuff with the NXL come out. And so it's super, we're living in this super frustrating time where we're just going to have to grin and bear it, take it on the chin for a little bit here and do what we can. And this is us doing what we fucking can to try to keep paintball alive.
That's it, dude. That's it.
I think a lot of amazing things are happening from this pressure of nothing going on. Pro Tour making a push, Ultimate Shootout coming to life. This show is literally a product of things being shut down and us having time on our hands. So, it's you can look at it as a negative, or the way I know Tyler and myself have been looking at it, I'm sure you too, Matty, is this has been the greatest opportunity ever.
Yeah.
This has been the greatest opportunity to pursue all sorts of different things. And you and I have talked about one-on-ones for almost 10 years now, and how
how long this goes back. Yeah, we've been talking about this forever.
Exactly.
Marcelo said that. Yeah, he told me about your guys' combos, about the one-on-one as well. Like it, and it's such an amazing thing, and it's a great opportunity, for it right now.
Well, we talked about it yesterday. If you also track it forward, because that's one side of things, and once we kind of open up, I feel like there's another side that we have not really explored too much. We are exploring it with the 10-man, but when you go and you talk to your standard person about paintball, it's so hard. It takes so much narrative and discussion to explain what tournament paintball is. It's like, okay, do you know what paintball is? And they're like, yeah, I played it at a birthday party. You're like, okay, cool. So what do you think it is? It's like playing war, right? And they're like, yeah, totally. I'm like, okay, I need you to completely toss that out the fucking bag. That's not at all what we're doing. It's a completely different thing. Okay, so no one's wearing camouflage. They are still shooting guns at each other. Imagine a grass field, inflatable bunkers, very colorful. It's fast paced. It's like hockey, but not with guns.
Motocross.
Motocrossy. And and then people are starting to be like, okay, cool. So, or I could tell them about, it's like we talked about yesterday, heroes history, ongoing narrative, spectacle, statistics, throw villains in with the heroes. And, with the one-on-one concept, it will very much help us with our mavens. Because it's like Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, fascinating book. If people haven't picked that up, definitely check it out. Kind of explains certain people over time. And damn, he's got it right there on his shelf. Shit, dude, are we going book for book? God damn, all my books are. I'm taking all my books out of this room. They're all in my other out.
What's funny is my shelf is over there. Actually, I just have that book out because I've kind of been going over it again. So I've had it over here. But that's just
dude. We're lucky we have Marcelo right now. Before the show, he poured a glass of water on his computer.
I wouldn't say poured. I aggressively smashed a glass of water into my computer. Oh my god! Oh, my dude, speakers don't work. I can only hear through my headphones now. So yeah, we're gonna have to figure this out.
Which brings me to my next thing, dude. I'm actually going to get through a question here.
Okay. I'm going to ask you. Damn, we're getting to a question. Yeah, ask away. Let's go.
So this kind of ties in with what we were just talking about. So when, if ever, do you think that paintball will be mainstream and the masses will know about us?
Well, it's kind of like we already are. I mean, I feel that that's a loaded question in a lot of ways, because if we're discussing that specific issue in the sense that you guys are going to be getting paid millions of dollars and the shit's going to be on prime time and it will be as big as just pick the biggest thing in the world. Yeah, that's, I don't know, man. I feel like that's too big of an ask right this second. And just because that we are innately at the end of the day, it is both a blessing, a giant blessing, because it's the fundamental nature of the game, but it is a little bit of a curse. We all talked about, I didn't know my mom would let me play. And, the paintball, we're playing war, bro. We're simulating warfare with guns. Like, let's stop fucking beating around the bush.
At the same time, you're having these other sports like football is a great example. Athletes, what parents want to put their kids in football now is CTE?
None.
You don't want to do that, right? I think paintball very well could one day get to that point, but I'm also okay if it doesn't. It could be big enough to where it's a massive sport like snowboarding or motocross. I'd be totally happy with that,
Yeah, I think
me too.
Yeah, it's
totally good.
But think about this. Like I personally worked on, I don't know,
everything.
Tons of stuff. But I mean, I've personally done. I've worked for ESPN. I've worked for Fox College Sports. I've worked for NBC Sports. I mean, WGN. I've done a lot of these TV shows. So we've been on TV. I've been in video games. You guys have been in video games. We've traveled around the world, played on all these different continents. I mean, the list kind of goes on. It's in countless commercials and movies and TV stuff. I mean, it's just, like Alex Frazee is always posting funny clips from different movies and TV shows that it's been in. So it kind of already is mainstream. The question is now, what do we do from here? Because, and that's where, I do think that I understand when we made the historical jump and paintball changed so quickly. We went from, in the 80s, this game was like 25 on 25. And things just kept getting more and more pared down. The field shrunk, the amount of guys on a team shrunk, the time that it was played shrunk, but it also exploded in popularity. And a lot of people, this is a very long conversation, but a lot of people kind of equate I feel like all these fucking conversations are going to be really long.
Dude, we're ready for you. We're ready for another one.
I'm ready, baby. I'm ready. So essentially, let's start with why these decisions were made, because, and so when you track it forward, you had a growing industry in which the powers that be were the companies and the people running the leagues, which was, it starts back at Jim Lively back in the 80s and early, very, very early 90s. Then it goes to the MPPL. And these were all little mini revolutions. And it's just, it's the same story every time. Everyone accuses the other side of greed and mismanagement. And we know what the fuck we're going to be able to do and where we should go. And you don't, and you've lost sight of what we're trying to. It's the same goddamn story every single time. And
for sure. And Beaster, Beaster, you guys just go to town when you talk, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. We've spent many a mile on the trail around the campfire, drinking red wine at 12,000 feet and talking about the cosmos or paintball or I don't know, you name it.
He's original Dynasty, one of the original Dynasty guys. And you guys go way back, but he's a legend. I actually just talked with him about stuff that we're talking about right now. And you're right. There's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah. We were teammates actually, Brad Mullen and I on the Ironman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Which we also need to get back in, because I think that's where we left off as far as your playing career goes. After 3.5 hours, we got to the Ironman.
We got to 1998. We got to hey, Dave, we want to be on the team. We're going to change the game. We're going to bring the Ironman back to, yeah. Well, I'll just kind of talk about this historical point real quick.
Good.
So, because that is we should definitely flesh that out too. But yeah, totally. I'm down to go back and talk about that. Because, we got to talk about excessive and the Ironman and all that crazy shit. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah. Anyway, so the game constantly, as it turned into a commodity, but this is another thing too that people need to understand. The game has always been a commodity. Right out the gate, National Survivor game. It was a commodity. It was sold as a package to people that had a little bit of money and a little bit of land, and that was the birth of paintball. So this like purity of the game bullshit like doesn't fly with me, because if you know the history of the game, like, don't get me wrong, I'm as much of a paintball purist, and I will fight for the spirit of the game. But to me, the spirit of the game that's a different conversation. But it always started, it was a business to start with. It's always been a business. You need money to do shit, man. Money, and that creates stability. It creates opportunities. So anyway, the game exploded in the 80s because a lot of people had never seen anything like it. Then you go to the 90s, and then slowly but surely towards the end of the 90s, then you had these bigger companies, and they wanted it to be more visible. And so that was kind of why we transitioned into airball, well, hyperball first, then airball, and then into the X-ball format. But one of the things, again, those principles, if you look back at the history of all these sports, those principles exist. They're like, like, I don't care. It's like facts don't care about your feelings or what you think about shit. 2 and 2 is going to be 4, whether you think it's 5 or 3, like it's going to be 4. So, and so all of those elements they needed to exist for it to be as big as it possibly could be. And over time, if you kind of look at it, it's like, we have had a progression, and things have gotten more refined and slightly better over time, but we created something brand new and carved it out that did not originate organically. It was a top-down decision, not a bottom-up growth. So the growth of paintball was bottom-up. It was all organic growth, stimulated by the market's demand to want to go play war. That's what the National Survivor game was. That was pump paintball. That was all the way essentially until we got to hyperball. Hyperball was basically the people that ran some of these companies that were paying money for their big names and teams to go to places, realizing like this shit is not visible. When I went to Dallas in 1994 and I wanted to go watch the Ironman play for the first time, Orlando in 1994, and then Dallas in 95 when it was fucking 38 degrees. But I was getting yelled at by the old guys because I had to look at the schedule, figure out what field 7 was, walk out there by myself. It was really hard to go see the best in the business play. I mean, this was not a spectator sport. So, but still, all of the growth at that time was all just grassroots growth. None of it was top-down directed. So then hyperball was a conscious decision to basically continue to commodify the visual aspect of the game in a way that you could film it, you could have people watch it. There was the slap bunkers in 1996 at the ESPN thing that was an abysmal failure with different rule sets, and no one really wanted to play that, but they were made to play it. So that also kind of sucked. And then hyperball came in, but then we liked playing hyperball. That was one hyperball and airball kind of hit around the same 12 to 18 month period in the late 90s. So we went from playing on all woods ball fields when I came up. Now we played on hyperball, and then now airball started to come in 99, and like also early part of 98, 99, 2000. And then we started embracing the hell out of that. Then it was like, oh, airball's the future. So when we went to World Cup and we won World Cup, there wasn't really woods ball fields anymore. So there was a complete transition. And then X ball came around, and that again completely upended the who played too. We needed tiny little, we needed 10 Kyle Spickas. That's what we needed. We needed 10 Kyle Spickas. And so again, there's nuances and there's lots of conversation on this whole transition, but I just think it is interesting that, the decision was made to change what the world wanted to do, to hope that people would want to do that too. And they did. And then, paintball in the early 2000s exploded in popularity, and we had these insanely huge tournaments. But at the same time, and we've just gotten back to, in the past couple World Cups, to the numbers that were being done, say in 2005 and 2006. However, we were also lighting a giant mountain of cash on fire. This was all not sustainable. It's like, you know, a dude doing a massive amount of steroids and getting bulked as fuck, but you just can't keep that bulk on because it's artificial. So, you know, the amount of money that was, and how many companies that went out of business. And so when the reckoning happened in the Great Recession, which is a whole nother story, but you know, so at that time, like what we were, because a lot of people point to that, like, oh, Huntington Beach, this or that, or, oh, World Cup in 05, or look at how much stands are there. And they point to that, like, and don't get me wrong, that shit was awesome. I was there. Like I got my start doing commentary in 2003 in Huntington Beach. We should probably tell that story, because that's like how the whole commentating thing started.
Yeah.
Then that's a crazy story. But you know, and that, dude, that was amazing, dude. It was a incredible thing to be a part of, but it wasn't sustainable. And so I just can't stand this like naive pie in the sky retrospective bullshit where we think that was like some, you know, amazing thing. It was amazing, but it wasn't, but it was all built up on money that was lighting on fire, dude. That none of it was sustainable. You know, it's like you can go and run your credit cards up and go buy a badass car, but if you're living above your means, this shit's gonna fucking come and bite you in the ass eventually, and that is not an intelligent thing to do. And that's what we were doing during that time period as an industry.
I think they were trying to fake it till you make it. So some outside sponsor sees, wow, how incredibly cool is this? I want to pour my money into it too.
And that's cool, you know. And I got to give a lot of respect to the guys at that time that were shooting the moon, and I was right there along with them, shooting the moon. But once you shoot the moon, you got to try to learn the lessons from those situations, and which is why we exist in the current paradigm from a production standpoint that we do. You know, that's why we have a subscription-based model, pay-per-view. We had to go to that. It was either that or have no webcast or have a completely shitty amateur hour webcast, which I didn't want to. Fuck that. You know, we deserve better than that.
You guys have been killing it. Like your guys' show is amazing. We're so lucky to have. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? I got the damn game in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? When has that ever happened? It's just within the last few years that we've been able to have this database that's accessible to everybody of paintball. It's amazing.
Well, where do you guys want to go? Because there's a lot of different. We can talk about the origins of the webcast. We could talk about that was towards the. You know, that's basically why I retired. Because I retired, I was only 28 when I retired. And I just kind of done enough. It's like I had calmed my demons and I had satiated my demons. And it's funny, Oliver and I had messaged about this, that's also why he stopped playing too. You know, is that like inner fuck you that you need in order to be one of the greatest. Like if you don't have that and you don't want to be mediocre, like I didn't want to be mediocre, you know? So and I had a new quest. So I had a bigger fuck you to me that I wanted to achieve. And that was what the webcast is now, essentially. You know, I wanted to provide a showcase for the best in the business. And, you know, I almost looked at it as like, it's like masturbation, man. Like I can continue to go out here and just stroke myself off and talk about and help these dudes that I'm with, you know, and do more of the same thing that I've been doing since I was, you know, a kid. And I've already won what I wanted to win and became the player that I wanted to be. But to me, it was like a bigger fight. I'm like, you know what? This is the fight. I want to do this. I want to do this for everybody, man. I want to put paintball on a fucking pedestal and provide a showcase for it. And then it just so happened to coincide with the Great Recession, which is another story too. But, you know, and that's kind of like, that was where that came from. So I don't know, where do you guys want to go with this? Because I can just keep yelling at the camera, but there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the webcast and all of that stuff because you and I have had so many conversations off the air about it. And so I would like to, I always try to
I have a Go Sports logo behind me for anybody watching YouTube. So I definitely want to talk about that.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But let's dive back in really quick. And we don't have to spend too much time on it, but we definitely want to go over your career. Because again, one of the most storied careers that I don't think a lot of people nowadays realize, as Tyler was speaking to on the first show with you, was, you know, people just think of you as the voice of paintball, and rightfully so, because you are that guy. You have dominated that space. But before that, your paintball career is what brought you to want to do this at such a high level. So yeah, let's get into that side of things, and then we'll absolutely dive down the webcast rabbit hole and the future of the sport, and, you know, a ton of other questions, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. So where were we when we left off? I think we just got on the Ironman, and we were kind of, that was where the sport was changing. And so essentially you had a complete revolution which we all saw coming. At least the younger guy, we didn't see necessarily what exactly was going to happen, but to me, the game was becoming more athletic. It was becoming more ambidextrous. It was becoming more offensive minded because that static bullshit of just hold the back line in the woods and, you know, not really train. Like we saw that it was going down a certain way because
you set up
the result,
a full obstacle course in your backyard. You were doing drills every day, trying to learn how to shoot with your left hand.
Absolutely, because you know I'm trying to get that competitive advantage. It's like
you were doing Russian Legion drills before Russian Legion was Russian Legion.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, yeah, there's a saying that you know, small incremental improvements over time create a drastic competitive advantage, and so that was kind of how we treated it, and we just had a big, gigantic fuck you Gibraltar-sized chip on our shoulders because we wanted to be the best paintball players to walk the earth. And we also looked at everyone that was out there, and it's like, you know, when a fighter looks at another fighter and goes, that they're beatable, that's the best, that's what we got. Okay, we can do better than that. And so that's what our generation of guys that came up thought. And it was, you know, the Billy Wings, Eric Roberts, Michael McLaughlin's, Davey Williamson. That was like the young lions that all got on the team between 1997 and the early part of and late 1998. So the Ironmen completely revamped their squad because they were taking like 7ths and 8ths and having a hard time winning tournaments. And again, like Shane Pastana was telling us, you know, we had all these dudes in the pit, and he's just like, you know, it's like winner stays on, man, you know, so let's get after it. Axe is sharp. I love all you guys, but I'll fucking cut your ass in a second. Don't think that I won't, because we're trying to achieve greatness here, because that's what this team is about. And then Oliver came on the team in, you know, 2000 and then we went to the first big win for us was, and this is like my foray into European paintball, which is a whole different story. But because back in the day, not a lot of people went to Europe. Like Shock had gone to Europe, All Americans had gone over to Europe, and because they're on the East Coast, that was a more incestuous relationship between, you know, they had Robo on the team, and there's in the UK Preds, and so there was Marcus Davis. There was some guys over there that were getting known in some of the magazines. They had some cool magazines, but no one really went over there on a regular basis like we had for the past 15 years.
Sure, yeah.
And so we went over in 1999 and we won Toulouse. And that was like our first big victory. And that's how I met the Joy Division guys, because they refed us there. And they were the best refs I've ever seen. They didn't care who you were. They were super honest. And we were getting just like typical stuff. I mean, we were getting horrible calls. We knew our count because the Avalanche and Lasoya was out over there too. And the crowd, and it was at this like little mini soccer stadium. It was completely packed. And so the crowd would cheer every time in the final game, and we were playing the Tauntauns. And so the crowd would cheer every time one of them shot one of us. And then when we shot one of them, we would just hear Chris, and that was the only voice. It was like crickets, other than Chris Lasoya at the top. Get that fucking out! Get that fucking guy out! Just screaming bloody murder from the top. He was on like the top of the thing over the top of the stadium. So that's how we knew our count. If they cheered, one of us died. And if Chris was yelling bloody murder, we killed one of them. That's literally how we knew our count. We won that. And then, so then
when the Tauntauns play over there,
I believe it. Yeah, you're right. And rightfully so. You know, we're the enemy going into their territory to think these guys are going to cheer for us. Hell no. I'd never expect that ever. I still will never expect that to happen. I don't expect that to happen when I go into your city, let alone your country.
I like it more when the whole crowd's against you. One, you know where you stand, and you're right. You know when the crowd's cheering, that's not for us. You know, so it actually helps you. And
1,000%,
I'm into it.
Yeah. So then in 2000, we came into that year really thinking, and that was actually, and this is when I transitioned from a front player to a back player. It was actually in 99, because in 98, I wasn't getting as much playing time as I wanted to. I was holding myself back, kept second guessing myself, making moves. And Shane, I remember, never forget the phone call. But I had a call with Shane, and he said, "Look, man, Matty, you're a really smart dude, but you are handicapping yourself because you are second guessing yourself in moves. And, you know, we want to win everything. So we need you to be at your best. If you want to stay on this team, you need to pick it up." And I was like, fuck, okay. And so I went into 99, I went to practice. We used to have practices in like a little pig farming area down by the river up in Salinas. And that was where we would go, and it was cold as fuck in the winter, and we would go up there, and that was where we started the year. It's like we ended up doing that at Rich Telford's field in Modesto, but that's where we would do it when we were getting coached by Shane in 1999. So, and then for the first time since I got on the Ironman, I stopped second guessing any moves. Anytime I even thought of a move, I made a move, and I was just doing wild ass crazy shit. So much so that Shane was like, "Dude, if I had to pick one of our front players, you're the guy right now." So I started that year as like the go-to front guy, and I had some success. But we just had so many guys in that position. But Shane came to me and he's like, "Look, dude, I need a mobile back guy that's a good gunfighter with a huge ass voice, and I've decided that you're gonna be that guy. And I'm like, bro, I don't back player? Are you crazy? Like, I don't want to play back. But I had played a little bit of back on Navarone when we started picking up some of these other guys. So I had a little bit of experience doing it, and I do have a really loud voice. So I was like, Shane asked me to do it, and he's like, I think this would be huge for the team. I really need you to try to play as a back player. But that was like the best thing that I ever did, because then that's what really catapulted me to being like one of the best in that position at the time during that era. But I didn't want to do it. But having those front player instincts and being able to close games, that really helped us when we went into the 2000 year, because we even had a name for it was me, Rich Telfer, and Brahim and Stefan, and then Mike McLaughlin also kind of took over for Brahim. And we called ourselves the cleaning crew. It's like, oh, you guys go make the mess and we'll clean it up. And it was very successful for us. And so then in 2000, we won 2 tournaments that year. We won Chicago and we won the World Cup. And if we beat Aftershock, it's like that whole dream of winning the World Cup and the series title, and you're on the field in the last game that you win. Like, that's all documented in, Sunday Drivers. But it's also hilarious too, because I got after we won that one, Oliver had a game that one. He got in the snake and shot a bunch of dudes. But I remember throwing my gun down, and I'm like running around like, fucking yes. And the referee comes over to me. He's like, "You're out, player." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You dropped your gun. You're out." And I was like, "I don't give a fuck. Here you go. We're fucking champions, dude. Kiss my ass. Like, get off me, bro. Get off me." Fucking yes. And so, but yeah, that was, and we won Chicago. I tell the story occasionally too on air, but that was an event win where we were getting our fucking asses kicked by Bobby's team in Modesto the weekend before we went out there, and we just hung in the pocket, and we ended up winning that one. It was hot as hell in Chicago, and we had to pull off like a 2-on-8 against Dynasty in at the old field that's still out there to this day. It was still like one of the greatest games I've ever played, but.
Yeah, I would say so for sure.
But you used to be able to do crazy shit like that, like you could pull off insane shit like that in that format. And so you don't really have like, you can still do that now in the 10-man. But anyway, so then that was just like, that was that we were the best team in the world at that particular time. And no one had won the World Cup and the series title at the same time. And we had put the Ironman back on the map. And
how long were you on the Ironman? What was the span of the Ironman for you?
I was on the Ironman from 1998 until 2004.
Okay.
So because that's when we all left to go form Excessive.
That's right.
So to me, I know in my mind, like, yes, I did play on, it was Navarone and then the Ironman and then Excessive. Those are the 3 main teams, but I don't really feel like I left a team when we all decided to go and form Excessive. Because that was essentially a corporate takeover.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a corporate, and looking back, like I found an article in Paint magazine, because I was the editor at large. Because I had this shitty thing.
I want to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But it was but that was also interesting times. So 2001. So the whole time, like that year, 2000, 2001, I think 2001 is I had a surgery. I had this gnarly infection in my back, where they had to slit my back open from like the top of my ass crack to like the lower part of my back, like this fucking far, and carve all this infection out. And so I played with that for a decent amount of time, because I didn't want to have the procedure done. So that fucking sucked.
Man.
But yeah. So then, but then when we left to form Excessive, we can get to that story a little bit, but I don't really feel like I ever left that team.
No.
But then, then 2001, that was a crazy year, because that was the year that I went overseas and played with Joy Division, because, they hit Magid. He hit me up, the owner and captain of the team. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to come over and play with us in Europe for the 2001 season, like every event?" And I was like, sure. Yeah, that sounds like a great time, because no one had ever done that before. Like, there were no, like,
Dude, you're the pioneer of European paintball.
Let's get a couple American mercenaries and go. Like, no one before Joy Division got us Ironman guys to go over. Like, that did not happen. No one did that. And because guys were the American team, so Avalanche was going over because they were like the superstar team. And so and Image was going over, and but so he was like, "Yeah, I need you to." So he's like, "Get me 2 other guys. We'll bring 3 guys over at a time, and it'll be 4 of us and 3 of you guys." And so I hit Mike up immediately and was like, hey, do you want to go to Europe and play with Joy Division? And he was like, hell yeah. So we brought over like Rich at one time, Oliver at another time, and Oliver was there in Brighton Beach when we won. So we go and we're playing against all the best teams in Europe, all the best American traveling teams at the time, Avalanches and Images of the World, Ground Zero, who was making a run at the time. And so it's me, Oliver, and Micah, and 4 Swedes. And they were so fun. That was still to this day like one of the greatest adventures of my entire life. It came down to the finals with Ground Zero. We'd beaten Image and beaten Avalanche. We're playing Ground Zero. If we win, we win. And Chris Cole blows his shoulder out, doesn't want to come off. We're like, I'm yelling at him, like, get him off the field, ref, get him off the field. He's injured. You got to get him out. So he comes off. And then after that, they just kind of fell and we won. And so it worked. And I was so happy for Magid because I was happy for myself and the guys, but I was really happy for him because that was a big risk that he took doing some unconventional shit. And it worked out. And it kind of set a precedent because then once people started to see that was a possibility, then that became a thing. It's like, oh, you need American mercenaries. And we
open the floodgates, dude. I mean, that right there set the precedent for people to do what Marcelo, myself, Ryan, all these guys on other teams that play European paintball, and it's like you started
to get paid too. Like we weren't getting paid at the time. It was just a cool adventure, but we got a few jerseys here or there, but we wanted to be Vikings, man, and it was
God. Yeah, you guys were, man. Holy shit.
That was crazy too. Cause like somebody came in hammered. I remember leaving. I've left multiple like hotels. Can you get the fuck out of here before? Just because somebody, it's nothing like people that know me, like I was never doing, I've done some crazy dumb shit, but I wasn't like breaking things. That wasn't my MO. I'd be like trying to stop the guy from breaking things. Like, please don't throw that through that plate glass. Please don't light that fire extinguisher off. And so, but things were happening. Stuff happens. And so yes, I remember leaving the hotel in Spain that year. I think that might have been the first event we went to, and somebody had come in. Who was it? Max Lundquist? I can't remember who it was, but somebody had come in and jumped on top and like tried to surf on this glass table and shattered it. So when I left in the morning, there were cops there. Chuck Hench was there, and he was like, "Do you know who did this?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I really didn't know." And then the cops were like, "Do you know who did this?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I got to catch my plane." They're like, "Oh, okay." So then I got the fuck out of there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and there's been a few stories like that, but yeah, so that was kind of, so 2000, 2001. That year in Europe it's just such a magnificent adventure. It was just because
is there video of that?
I don't think so.
No, damn.
Yeah,
dude, I would love to watch that.
We barely had cell phones at the time. I have a few pictures here and there, but but yeah,
I know because you working with the Paint magazine, correct?
Yeah.
You have such a amazing database, I'm sure, of just old school photos and just awesome stuff from times that nobody else has that stuff,
Yeah, there's I have all of the Paint magazines, and
no way. Wow.
I have the whole collection. There's and then the book is coming out here.
Sick.
And yeah, so that it's obviously with COVID because I hit up Dilts. Mm-hmm. So it's like Chris Haas and Chris Dilts are the two guys behind Paint. So they when I was like because there's this other super fucked up story that I never ever tell anybody, but Marcelo, I think I've told you this story before.
It's a good chance.
This is like a really tragic thing. Anyway, I had a really rough time. It was like everything was going great in life, but when I was 20, I don't know if I really want to get too much into this story, but it would really consume a majority of like what the rest we're talking about. But really good friend of mine killed his girlfriend and killed himself in front of us at a party, and so we had to watch that happen. It's just as horrible as you possibly could think it was. Then don't think like, oh, what am I going to say? Like, the one thing I've learned about being involved in super tragic shit, like there's no right thing to say or wrong thing to say. Sure, there's wrong things to say, like fuck you, don't be a pussy, like that sort of stuff. But it was super tragic. And then my back was fucked up. And so and at the time, anyway, so I ended up leaving Dye. but everything seems to not that like, oh, things happen for a reason type shit.
Yeah.
But at the time when I was working at Dye, like if you bought a 2-piece barrel between the years of 1998 and 2001, I probably put that thing together for you, because I was the person who managed all of the outgoing quality control for basically all finished parts, for barrels and hard goods and soft goods and that sort of stuff. I kind of did like warehouse management shit for Dye while going to get my college degree in writing in English, which we had talked a little bit about before. So, but anyway, so with the whole murder suicide thing, and it's a whole different story, but that was really, really rough time to go through.
Dude, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I mean, I can't even, I try to wrap my mind around that, but it's impossible to, like, yeah.
And I hope, I hope people don't have to deal with that shit. It's tough on your soul. Especially, and this is my advice to anyone that has to deal with tragic shit. Like, don't try to be Superman, man. Like, do not try to be Superman. Like, I tried to be Superman and just eat all those feelings. Like, I remember sitting at this guy's funeral, and I knew this guy better than I know the two of you. Like, seriously, like he was that close of a friend to me. The guy that killed his girlfriend.
Jeez.
And this was a girl that I dated a little bit too. So, and then again, it's a long fuck. It's even more convoluted and fucked up than that. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I remember sitting at this dude's funeral, just burning up inside, because I'm sitting here and like the people that weren't there to see it are getting up, like got people we knew from high school, and they're saying all this like really nice shit. His parents and his dad was an absent father. His dad was a doctor. And anyway, so super fucked up story. Like this is one of the most like just Shakespearean tragedy type shit. Yeah. So I'm sitting here at this funeral and I'm looking at around and I'm like, oh, so this is what a murderer's funeral is like. Like I just kept thinking, just seething and just fucking burning up inside. Like, fuck this, fuck him, fuck this. This is fucking bullshit. And I just refused to cry, refused to give any emotion on it, and tried to just act like, not like nothing had happened, but I just refused to give
like
him,
you're above the feelings.
Yeah. I just refused to give him the satisfaction.
Because it's okay it's valid to have feelings, man. That's something that I think as men we're taught not to have feelings, but you are a human being. You are hardwired. Okay. Yeah. You have wiring that you can't understand, and it's valid to have these emotions, man. And it's that's a huge thing for sure.
And then, to be involved in like pretending to play war and see what a gun can actually do to somebody from 6 feet away and like all that sort of. So I was wrestling with all that. I was super fucking angry at him, angry at the world, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of like just put that all inside, and it was like a really hard time.
Dude, yeah.
So anyway, because that kind of led to so I stopped working at Dye. It's a longer story, but the Paint Magazine guys hit me up because I had hung out with those guys. It's actually a funny story how I met those dudes. I got my tongue pierced, and the same.
I love that, dude.
It was no longer pierced, but hey, at the time, it's frosted tips, tongue pierced, puka shells, bro.
That was the times, yeah.
Yeah. So the Paint Magazine guys come into town for the first time. They're in San Diego, and they're like, "Matty, take these guys out." I'm like, "All right." Just got my tongue pierced like the day before. I was swollen up so bad that I could barely fucking talk. And so I'm sitting in a bar and I'm like, I'm a writer. I'm like telling them that I'm a writer and that I would be, and so maybe we could work together. Like, as I could barely fucking speak.
Like, he's a fighter.
Yeah, he's a fighter. Yeah. He's a biter? Is he? I don't know. I don't know. That's cool. That's all good.
Definitely a fighter. He's got a fat lip.
Yeah. So anyway, so they hit me up and they're like, hey, so I started writing some pieces for them. And then I ended up becoming their West Coast editor.
Damn.
Sorry. I was the editor at large. So that was the same.
Nice.
We're like, well, hey, what position? Because this is a small shop. But so Hunter S. Thompson, he was the editor at large for Rolling Stone magazine. And at the time when I was going to school, right after I got out of school for writing, I was like, fucking A, there's nothing else I want to be more than like an editor at large. So I got to write a lot of pieces for them and got to see how the sausage is made. And it was such a delicious sausage, I spent a lot of time in Chicago at the Paint House back then. And, that was a really cool experience to kind of be there as those guys were, helping categorize and catalog, but also add an aesthetic to the golden age of paintball, which was really interesting to see. But, it's tough because it's really expensive to print magazines, and it ended up being another one of those things that was unsustainable. But I will give all the respect and credit in the world to Chris Haas and Chris Diltz being able to create that beautiful thing while they could. And then now we get to see it in the coffee table book, which will be coming out here, I think in like October now. I just talked to Diltz, because Diltz went on to be pretty much like a famous photographer.
That's right.
Yeah.
For the president.
For the president of the United States and the vice president. Not the current one, not 45, but 44.
Yes, that's right.
So that was interesting. And then then Chris Haas, that's a different story, but I did some work for the year anniversary of healthcare reform, kind of traveled all over the United States and helped produce and write a series of like 5 pieces about all these people whose lives had been positively impacted by healthcare reform. That was another mind-bending trip. It was during the Great Recession, and it was just like heavy conversation after heavy conversation after heavy conversation.
Yeah.
But
when you're the Akashic Records, it's what you get, right?
I guess this is my lot in life, is to just have all this crazy shit going on at all times and just be sucking it up. Like, is this a movie? Mine a simulation? It's got to be a simulation.
It's a simulation. Just don't even sweat it, bro. Don't even sweat it. But you are an eloquent writer. You're very talented at what you do. I'll never forget. I'm pretty sure when I was growing up, I was reading your stuff and I didn't even know it. Or like the magazines and all this stuff.
I don't know if I knew that you wrote for Paint, and I grew up glued to Paint magazines. I was a kid, but I don't even know if I'm sure I did. I'm sure we've talked about it. That's another thing that's amazing about you, Matty, is you retain almost everything that comes your way. With me, I have to learn things like 5 or 6 different times for me to hold it in.
Yeah, but dude, you've done it all, Matty. Like the checks, all the boxes are checked, and you've done it all. So I'm curious to see what the next 40 look like for you, and where you're going to take paintball and what you're going to do with everything that the Akashic Records does.
Well, I'm excited for the future, and it's definitely, there's a lot there. I'm a big believer in this game. There's just something pure and magnificent about the game of paintball. It's like, it's like it's like chemotherapy, cancer, radiation. In order to cure the most horrible disease that we have, you have to give somebody a small dose of poison. And so it's interesting with paintball, because people look at it as like from the outside, that it could be this really violent thing, but sure, you could look at it that way, but it's almost anything further from the truth. It's like, if you want to teach a kid to not be a bully, then get him involved in jujitsu and karate, because when he's involved in that, after he gets out that call it purging the demon. And it's the same thing with paintball. I think paintball is up there as far as martial arts is concerned, is it's an incredibly positive purging the demon thing. I remember sitting around with Alex Lundquist and Max Lundquist's mom, very educated and well-spoken, posh Swedish woman. And we're sitting there in their backyard in Halmstad in the west coast of Sweden at their beach house. It's not directly on the beach, but it's like, this is a cool little town. And we're sitting there at dinner, and we're having a philosophical discussion about paintball. And she said something very profound that has always stuck with me. And she said, I think every man, this is Sweden, you have to be in the military there for 2 years. It's just part of the deal to be a citizen. And so she said, I really think that you should be forced to play paintball when you're younger, particularly for boys, especially boys. And I said, why is that? And she gave me this like very knowledgeable look, and she said, there's like a demon that lives in every man's soul, and it has to be purged, and paintball helps purge that demon. And so I just thought, fucking A, dude, absolutely, lady, that is so profound, because it's true. I don't necessarily know if it's every person, but especially as we start to get shoehorned into these cement and wood and plaster boxes more and more constantly, and we get inundated with just a million, just get sucked into the abyss and vortex of social media and all of this as other things. It's like, there's never been more information, and I'm scared that we're starting to lack wisdom. And, wisdom isn't necessarily just knowledge of how things work, pertinent technical information about how the world works, physics and mathematics and technical skills for your trade. And then also under, a religious or philosophical understanding as well too, but a knowledge of self.
Yes.
And I think that when you get in the ring, when you do a little bit of boxing or do jujitsu or go play paintball, or just, if you've never been in a fight, it's like, you don't really know what you're made of. And the more that we pad the world and shelter everyone away from any sort of meat hook possible reality that could exist within the framework of our consensus reality that we all share this space with. And I just think that is not how we got here. Our ancestors are moaning a collective growl of frustration and angst at the patheticness in a lot of ways of where we have been headed, because, trying to make things, you don't make things better by making them easier necessarily.
No.
You don't make your body better by making it easier. You have to make it harder.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about the pain is what breeds the strength and the success. We cannot make things easier or more delicate or, this, that, and the other. Like, we've got to, stop with that type of thinking. It's got to be, not that we want anybody to get hurt or be difficult, but we have to have, the struggle is good. It's good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's hold on, just make sure my computer's plugged in. But
yeah, we need that.
I'm not trying to spill my wine though on my.
Yeah, don't spill your glass of water on your computer.
What's funny is I just realized I never plugged my battery back in after my water disaster as well.
You guys are both, your computers are just screaming right now.
Yeah, and I still got 33%, but 33 Marcelo Margot.
There we go. It's a sign.
Yeah, it's a sign. Yeah, but no, it if you want to become smarter, or you want to harness your intelligence by becoming knowledgeable, well, you have to study and you have to read big books and you need to be tested. If you want your body to become stronger physically, you want your muscles to grow, you have to subject those muscles to weight-bearing exercises, or you need to get your ass out on the street and go subject your heart and your lungs to strenuous exercise for them to become stronger. If you want to temper steel, then you have to take that steel and heat it up so the molecules start vibrating, then you hit the fuck out of it and bash on it in order to get those molecules to line up a little bit more in a row in order to become stronger. So, pick your metaphor. And I just think that paintball just grooves in so nicely and so perfectly with that mandate, that human mandate to not be a weak little bitch, and that everything in your life will become better if you are willing to endure a little bit of stress and struggle.
Yeah.
And
the community, you're a part of this community. You're a part of a tribe. We all need to be a part of a tribe, to have that sense of belonging. And paintball gives you all of these things. It teaches you how to talk to people better. Most of the time it gets pretty testing with paintball, with the communication. Yeah. So it teaches you a lot of how to communicate as well.
Yeah. How to communicate, how to work within a group. Yeah. I mean, you can't just walk into the group and just start pushing your way around. You can, but you're going to get pushed back, and you're going to learn what type of pushing to do and the best way to go about coexisting and, and working together, cooperating with all these charismatic individuals. And what a crazy group of charismatic individuals it is. So I'm a big believer of this game. And I just feel that, having experienced so much of it, and that might be a good segue into talking about excessive, because we talk about learning to work with a group, bro. Mm-hmm. Like that was, fuck, that was a very rewarding and torturous 3 seasons. Because, man, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you guys have some strong mindsets on there. And that's why we called this Play the Game, because everything we just talked about, it's like, it's the game is nurturing, and the gifts of the game, like you talk about, it's like, it's a gift, dude. We're blessed. We're so fortunate to have these relationships right here on this platform, and the relationships we built around the world, and the relationships that we're going to get into, like with Excessive, dude. What a crazy team that was. Insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I was in New York at Pete Utchig, Mr. U's house, spending some time over there, because we also started, another thing that we started doing, so in 2003, Oliver, myself, and Mr. U, we traveled around Scandinavia, and we paid our way through by teaching paintball clinics, because teaching paintball clinics wasn't really something that people were doing in 2003. And then there was a German guy that set up, and we had 2 clinics that we ran in Majorca, which is an island that's very much larger than Ibiza, but it's in the Mediterranean. It's a Spanish island. Looks exactly like San Diego. And so we taught a couple of those there. And so then, and if you still ask Oliver or Mr. U, who have had crazy lives, what their favorite trip they ever went on, they will probably say that our month-and-a-half long crazy Viking adventure through Scandinavia was probably their favorite one. I mean, I saw Oliver. He hadn't been back to the United States in 2 years. He came back last year, and we hung out for like 3 days in a row. Yeah. And we went out and had like an 8-hour long conversation, just me and him. And I asked him, I'm like, is that still your favorite trip? And he's like, I think it is. I was like, holy fuck, dude. Yeah, that's Oliver Lang's favorite trip. Yeah. It must have been a good one. But yeah,
what happened out there?
Oh, bro. Well, it was wild. It was wild. I mean, I don't know. I might have to save this one for another podcast because I could literally spend the next 45 minutes telling you all the stories from this one. Wow. It did end with a crazy fight, though, bro. Like probably the most wild fight I've ever been involved in. This shit was fucking insane, dude. Like I did not know if we were gonna make it out of this one. It was wild.
Oh boy.
Well, it was so essentially, it was a very interesting dynamic, like learning about working with people. So, and we're with each other like 24 hours a day, nonstop. And we started it. It was like the adventure started off crazy because we're in Toulouse playing a tournament down there, and I get a napkin because somebody had saw Oliver at and none of our plans, nothing was set in stone. Like I didn't even know I have my plane ticket yet. So when I get to France, JP Augustin, I think it was JP, who was playing with our team at the time. He hands me a napkin because he saw Oliver at the airport, and a napkin says "Matty!" ! Can't wait to go to Scandinavia, or can't wait to go to Sweden! ! Here's your flight number on a fucking cocktail napkin from the flight from his flight. So I get handed that when I see him. So I'm like, okay. And then I see Oliver and Mr. U, and we're super stoked on it, Max. And then we play the tournament. Players Party, Faceful magazine. I wrote for Faceful a bunch too. Since their very first episode or very first edition. And so there was a Faceful party with all the crazy French dudes that love talking with their hands. I actually really like French people a lot. And those guys were some amazing ones. And so, and then the last time I saw Oliver, he was like swimming in a fountain with some British guy. And then they took their like shirts off and they were chasing some random guy that was talking shit to him down an alley. Like that's the last time I saw Oliver. And then so the next morning I wake up and I'm hungover and there's like extra people sleeping in a room. Junior Brown, I love Junior Brown, but I think he was actually the one that Oliver was swimming with. So I had to like get him a shirt. So anyway, so we wake up and we're just going around the hotel, seeing everyone's just hammered and just waking up. And I'm like, has anyone seen Oliver? So I have to like go find Oliver on the streets of Toulouse in the morning so we can go catch our flight. I finally find him last minute. We end up getting on the plane and then we take off on our adventure to Scandinavia. So we land in Stockholm and the plan was Stockholm, Finland, Helsinki, back to Stockholm, Halmstad, Oslo, Norway, back to Halmstad, back to Sweden, and then there was going to be a tournament at the end of that trip in Stockholm to kind of cap the whole thing off. Teaching clinics everywhere that we go to fund the trip. Played in like a local 5-man tournament there, which we did not win. Anyway, so crazy, insane.
Yeah.
Wild ass. Oh, and we went to Gotland Island too. Gotland Island is like an old Viking stronghold that was its own spot in the North Sea. And so so
you love history too. So all this you're like eating it up.
Yeah, it was again that's a story I could tell the long story about that entire trip because it was crazy. But at the end,
I want to hear this someday.
I will, here over beers, just you and me, whatever you want to do. But the crazy part, the end was wild. So we were at this bar called like Burns, I think is the name of it. It's like in downtown middle part of Stockholm. Mm-hmm. And when we went up there, all the Swedish dudes are like, they're hardcore guys, but like, oh, there's no fighting in Sweden. There's no fighting in Sweden. We're like, okay. But they also neglected to tell us that there's like no courtesy at bars in Sweden too. So there's like no excuse me or this or that. You know how it is here. Like, oh, excuse me, pardon me. Oh, my bad. Oh, my bad, bro. Oh, yeah. You know, like, let me get through here real quick. Nah, they're just like, just putting their head down and just balling through you. And so it's whatever, but it just shit gets a little old after a while. And so, and Mr. U, it's again long. This is like a much longer story, but Mr. U wanted to fight Max because he was super pissed off at Max. And so was Oliver. But then Mr. U, who's a New York City firefighter, he's like one of the toughest dudes that I know. He gets in an argument with this dude who ends up being like an amateur boxer. And so at the time, like I had rolled up because also, this is just a public service announcement to any younger gentlemen that may ever go to Scandinavia. I don't know how it is if it's still this way there, but women up there, just go up to them and start speaking English. And you could walk up to the most a double dime, dude, an 11. Just go up to like the hottest chick you can see and just start speaking English to her. And just I promise me, I trust you, it'll be a good time. So anyway, so I walk up the stairs the very first time up here. I'm single at the time, and I go see this girl, and I immediately start talking to her. So I'm talking to this girl, and then the way the bar was, it was super skinny and incredibly packed. Bar over here, dance floor here, and just like sardines, insanely packed. So I'm talking to this girl over here, and I see Mr. Yu, and I see him arguing with this guy. Now, there's been arguments, and again, no fighting in Sweden. And so then, so I see them kind of come over, and there's like a million people in between us and them. And so but I'm kind of keeping an eye on it, like, but also talking to this girl. And then all of a sudden, they start punching each other. So I'm like, holy shit. So I grab a bottle off the bar, dump it out, and I start to try to get into this fight. And then I look up and see this like huge dude who's wearing a suit, who come to find out later on that, like, because all the mobsters know all or can know the bouncers. And so I forgot. I go over to try to talk to these dudes. I'm like, trying to talk to these other guys, because Mr. Yu, because it was a long ass, this is happening like constantly. They're arguing over here, arguing over there. So I walk up to this one guy who seems with their group. I'm like, hey man, it's all good. I know this is my buddy. Yeah, it's all good. Like, and the guy just looks at me and this is all he says in super broken English. He goes, "We are a mob. We kill you." That's it. That's all he said. And he just kept repeating it over and over again. And I'm not a small dude. He was much bigger than me. And so he's just like looking down at me, and he's just like, "We are a mob. We'll kill you." He's like, you killed. And I'm just like, this is fucking great. So that's the dude that I end up I'm squaring off with this guy. I got a ball in my hand. Like, he's like, we're like, who's going to punch? And then this whole surge of the crowd like comes and pushes like us both up against the bar. The girl that I'm talking to is trying to like bear hug me around my stomach and pull me out of the fight. And I'm like trying to shrug her off and like make sure this dude doesn't tee off of me. And so like all this craziness happening. And then they ended up like, it all kind of dies down. They throw Mr. Yu out. We don't know that they throw him out like through the bar. They take him back to the bar. So I'm like, I just go to the girl. I'm like, write your number down on this piece of paper. All right, cool. I got to go. And then I take back off into the bar, and I go and I see Nicky Vegas, and I'm like, hey dude, there's a fight that's about to go down. He's like, I thought you guys said there's no fighting in Sweden. I'm like, well, there might be. So we're going to need you to lock the fuck in right now. And then, so when they go up to, and then the Swedish guys are just pleading, like there's a couple of guys are pleading. They're like, please do not fight these guys. Like, this is Yugoslavian mobsters. Like, you do not want to fight these guys. This is a fucking bad deal. Like, this could go really bad. And I'm like, oh fuck. And then I'm like looking over the railing because it's on the second story, and I just see the guys that we were all arguing with, and the one guy that was fighting with Mr. Yu. They're like running in to the parking lot and then running back with more people, going to the parking lot, coming back with more people. And I'm just like looking at the congregating crowd downstairs, and I'm like, where the fuck is Mr. Yu? This is bad. Trying to talk to all the dudes that in this crowded ass bar that we possibly can. Like, I need you to sack the fuck up. I need you to sack the fuck up. This may go down. And then as we're having this kind of figuring out what's happening, I hear breaking glass, and I look over and see Oliver on top of the railing, chucking full beer bottles down into the courtyard. And he had broken like a big glass chandelier that was above him on the downswing. And I just hear him like, fuck you, motherfucker. And he just was launching Bud Heavy missiles and Heineken missiles down into the courtyard. So I look at that. I'm like, holy shit. I look down in the courtyard. And you remember the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, when Neo's getting attacked by Agent Smiths, like multiple Agent Smiths, and he's just like being piled on by Agent Smiths. Yeah. So this is what I see down in the courtyard. I see Mr. Yu, he's Neo, surrounded by Yugoslavian mobsters, all beating on him. They're the Agent Smiths. And Davey Williamson is just the only other American down there. And he's just like, boom, just clearing dudes off of Mr. Yu. Boom, boom, just fucking landing. He's getting fucked up. And the only person close to me was Nicky Vegas. So I'm like, let's fucking go. We grab fucking bottles, and we think we're running down into like sure, like instant death for sure. Cause there's a fucking billion of them and two of those guys, and there's no one, just me and him. That was it. So we come around down this spiraling staircase, and lo and behold, there's Mr. Yu completely fucked up and unconscious on the ground. Davey's like stumbling, holding his jaw up against this brick wall. Lucky for us, there was like a kind of like a bouncer levee holding the mobsters away from us. So it was like there was a bottleneck, a brick wall here, stairs here, and it formed this really small entryway where there was like 8 to 10 bouncers holding this wall of just dudes screaming bloody murder in some foreign language as Mr. Yu's completely unconscious. And so it's me, Vegas, Mr. Yu's fucked up, Davey's fucked up, no one else, just the four of us. And so Vegas is like, throw him over my shoulder. So we pick up Mr. U, who's not a small dude, throw him over Vegas' shoulder, and we run him to the back because we don't know if he's dead or not. So we run him into the back, and Vegas throws him into a planter. And then he just takes back off. And I was like, where the fuck are you going? And I fucking grab Mr. U, and Mr. U is just completely fucked up, man, bleeding out of his ears and shit. And I grab him, and I'm like trying to see if he's, how alive, like to get his, the deal. He's literally in a planter, like with bushes and shit. So I'm like grabbing him, I'm fucking slapping him. I'm like, Mr. U, wake up. Wow, slapping him. I'm like, wake the fuck up. Wake up, Pete. Finally, he like wakes up, and then Alex Lundquist appears. And I was like, and then Alex Lundquist was right there. So Pete wakes up, and he's like, oh, I'm like, dude, are you all right? And he's like, oh, he can't even speak. So I look at Alex, I'm like, watch him. So I drop him off and start running back into the thing. So there was another beer bottle on the ground, pick the beer bottle up. And then this bouncer grabs me, and he's like, drop your weapon. And I was like, what? And I was like, drop your fucking weapon. And so cause I have a beer bottle, and I was like, fuck you. You just saw my friend get fucking assassinated. There's no way I'm dropping this fucking weapon. Fuck you. So I like swim move him. I get like around the bouncer, and I'm like running back out to where the scrap was. And then, so little did I know that, so Vegas goes back out there and goes, and all those dudes are stoked because they just knocked out the Americans, right? So there was like a group of like, I don't even know how many of them out and kind of congregating out in the little, because we're in the middle of the fucking center courtyard in Stockholm. So he grabs a bicycle, bro, grabs a bike, like a 10-speed bike, and holds it up over his head. And he's like, which one of you motherfuckers hurt my friend? And this dude steps up, and he takes the bike and throws it into the dude's chest. Another guy comes at him, and he's Vegas is a pretty badass fighter. He's like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So this dude comes at him. And I heard this story from the people that were coming right behind him. So, because I wasn't there yet, I'm fucking seeing if Pete's alive. So Vegas takes that dude, dumps him on the ground, starts pounding that dude. Guy comes and kicks him in the face. He's like trying to fight that guy, punching the guy on the ground. And then here comes Will Arroyo. Oliver gets into it. Davy's back alive, and they come in and they just start fucking these dudes up. Like all the dudes that were on Vegas, they come in, they're just like, boom, just teeing dudes up. So by the time I got out to the courtyard, these dudes are on the run. Like we jumped in at the, like right as they were, the wall was breaking and they were running. So we run in, start hitting these dudes, and then they just start running, and we're chasing these guys through the streets of Stockholm into McDonald's. Like we almost cornered this guy in Stockholm or in McDonald's.
Jeez.
And he's like around a table, and the people are like eating their Big Macs. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Anyway, so
war stories, baby. War stories.
That's a short version of that. That's the short version. So then we get back in there, and as we get back up to the place, Mr. U's still super groggy, and he's got, dude, it's funny because he had like an HK imprint. Like it literally looked like HK from the dude's boot on his head.
Dude, the original hostile kid.
Yeah, for
Holy
real.
shit.
Yeah. So then this dude looked like a heavy metal guy with long hair comes up, and he's like perfect English, but like slightly accented in Swedish. And he's like, "Are you those Americans that were in that fight? We're like in the alley around the corner." And he's like, "We're like, yeah." He's like, "You guys need to get out of here. You guys are lucky because the cops are dealing with some bullshit at another bar. So you guys get out of here because they're looking for you." So we like jumped in a cab, took the cab, got let off a block and a half away or 2 blocks away from where we were going, and then walked the rest of the way, and then woke up the next morning.
Bunch of savages.
Hold on, the cops were dealing with something at the other bar. I thought there were no fights in Sweden. Something was
right. That's what I'm saying. Like I thought there was no fighting in Sweden. Anyway,
yeah, that's a wild.
Yeah, dude.
It doesn't really go down like that as much anymore. But back in the day, man, that's
thank God.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank God. That was a little topsy turvy of a moment, but.
It's a different day, yeah.
We made it out alive, bro.
Yeah.
Like we said, if you make it out alive, it's just a good story you get to tell later on.
That's right. Well, dude, let's dip back into your story. I want to hear about excessive. So let's start.
Yeah, sorry. So excessive. So I got a call. So I was with Mr. U.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. No,
this is good. This is exactly what we need. This is perfect, man.
So,
that story is databased now, you know?
Yeah. So I'm at Mr. U's house. It's snowing outside. It's winter. And I get 3 calls in one day. I get a call from Micah McLaughlin. He says, "I've been cut from the Ironman. I have funding to form another pro team. I want you to come with me. I got 150 grand. I was like, okay. And I get a call from Rich Telford. He's like, "I've been cut as the captain of the Ironman, so I'm going to quit and go join Micah." Then I get a call from Yosh. Sorry, 4 calls. Then I get a call from Yosh. And Yosh, he says, "I'm leaving and I'm going to Dynasty, like back to the Iron Kids."
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a call from Shane Pastana, and he says, "I'm coming back to coach the team. What do you need, Daddy? Like, what do you need? Let's do this. You're like you're one of our best guys. We need you on the team. Like, what do I need to do to make this happen?" So I get all those calls essentially right at the same time. So now I have a decision to make. Like, what am I going to do? So what had happened essentially was that you had the Ironman, as much as time and effort that we had put in our generation to renew that name and that squad and to make it a team. That year, that was the very first year. This was after the very first year of the NXL, which is 2003. There was no tournament wins. It was all season. Though if there were tournament wins, we probably would have won. I think it was Vegas, because we beat everybody. But it was a change. We had to switch some stuff around. We could have done better. So essentially they were going to take control away from Rich, who was our captain, and give it back to Shane. And Shane was my hero.
Yeah.
But I had been battling in the front lines and in the trenches with Rich. Yeah. And then Micah, so we had our leader, then we had our organizer. Micah bought all the tickets. Micah did all the practice shit. Like, Micah was the dude behind the scenes and logistically making everything work. And we had one of our best players and one of our poster boys and one of my best friends at the time, because he worked with me at Dye, Yosh. So he's gone. And so it was very conflicting time. But to me, it wasn't much of a decision, because once I kind of figured that if you didn't work at Dye, you were going to go to Excessive. And then, cause Catfish stayed, Eric Roberts stayed, Billy Wing stayed, but they all essentially were working at Dye. So to me, I didn't really leave the Ironman. I just stayed with the dudes that I was with on a team, and we went and just called it a different name. And so I don't really feel like I left a team, so to speak. I'm sure somebody else could probably argue it a different way, but that's how I saw it at the time. So then we went on to form Excessive, and Infamous got a lot of credit, and rightfully so, when they left mid-season to go, because this is also where I first got my big break doing, because 2003.
That's right.
Huntington Beach commentary. Yeah. How did that happen?
They didn't let us play in the NPPL. So there was a big change, big riff that happened between the NPPL 7-man and between the NXL. And so if you were an NXL team owned by one of the guys that owned the NXL, like the Ironman, then you were not allowed to play contractually in the 7-man events. But Dynasty said, fuck you, we're not going to do that. And they went and just collected check after check after check. And God bless them. Just beating the shit out of the Naughty Dogs and the Tauntauns time and time again to run that overall win count up. And became, it was just amazing.
I sent a slight jab there.
Look, like with that pro patch shit that we brought out, like back in, like, not gonna say back in the day. Anyway, but to me, it's, look, I'm not, dude, I love Dynasty, man. Like, I fucking love that team. I'm not going to talk shit on Dynasty. However, I'm going to shoot it straight. And when you're going and beating the Tauntauns and the Naughty Dogs, when all the fucking other 150 best players in the world are in the NXL, like, those wins don't count as much as like Green, other wins.
And you heard it here first. Green.
I've told him this a million times, bro. Like, am I wrong? Like, am I wrong?
No, I mean, I say it to Ryan too, but it's funny, because then I also, when it works in my favor, I boast the 50+ wins of Dynasty. That's great, but of course,
as well you should, Marcelo. As well you should. They were wins. I was there. I was there. I got to see them.
Funny.
So I show up at Huntington Beach in 2003, and because we were sponsored by WGP, to made the Angels.
They also had to beat Bad Company.
Yep, Tommy Cole was out there running them.
They had to beat Bad Company. Those were tough times.
Yeah, they had to beat Bad Company. Hey, look, I'm also a Bad Company fan. I could tell some Bad Company stories. They were not a premier team at the time. Not a premier team at the time. They were shooting spiders and shit. I mean, it was...
Dude, I remember being a kid and watching all this stuff and just being mind blown about everything. Because I was in the NXL at this time, like, as a kid.
On the Oakland Assassins.
That's right. Yeah. So, like, I was watching Dynasty doing all this and it was just like, what in the hell is going on here?
Yeah. So I show up to Huntington Beach, because Huntington Beach is an hour and 30 minutes from my front door. And my plan was just to drink beer and watch my boys, because I was very good friends with those guys, because, we tried to get them on the team, and some of them were on the team at one point in time. So that was my plan. I was just going to roll up and maybe sleep on a floor or get a room. I don't know. I didn't really have a lot. I had a friend that lived up there, because, Southern California beach town. So that was the plan. But I showed up a little early to kick it and bullshit. And so we're setting everything up with the WDP guys. I'm literally, like, helping set up their tents and drinking beers, kicking it. And Bart was on, trying to remember his last name. But anyway, so Bart was on the phone and he's like, yep. He's like, okay, fuck. All right, can't make it. All right. And he gets off the phone. He's like, fuck, Will can't make it. And then he looks at me and goes, you do it. You be perfect. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, do what? I literally was like, do what? And he says, well, so Will Arroyo was going to host, we're doing a TV show here. So we're going to have somebody, we're going to do commentary, live commentary on a house microphone to the crowd while everyone's playing. You're going to have a co-host. Then we're going to fly you to Florida and we're going to do play-by-play for a TV show that we're going to do. And I was like, dude, I've never done anything like that. Now, I had done I was writing for the magazines and I had done the Sunday Driver stuff. And, so, I mean, they probably thought I could handle it, but I had never done, it's like similar shit that we were talking about when we talked yesterday. Obviously intimidated, but I just get used to saying yes a lot. So
yeah.
I said, I was like, look, man, I was like, that sounds cool and everything, but I just showed up to watch my friends play paintball and drink beer and watch them play. And he goes, well, you can do that and we'll pay you. You just have to talk to everybody about it. And so I said, okay, sure. And he's like, all right, you got to talk to Michelle, who was the producer at the time. And so I met her at the bar later on and she was like, okay, never told this part of the story, but so she goes, so I talked with her, but all the Joy Division guys were there. So I stay up and get apps because I'm nervous. And I just kind of drowned my nervousness with booze. And so I got just shithouse hammered that night and woke up like on a bathroom floor at my room, no. And so that was my first day at the office.
Anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety. And so I, pulled myself off the linoleum and took a shower and rolled up and the rest is history. But
seriously.
But yeah, so I met a guy named Mike Ricker there who was a radio DJ in Tampa, became a good friend of mine. And he just kind of gave me the, quick 101 essentially, because I was like, I'm worried about cussing. And he's like, do you cuss in front of your grandma? And I was like, absolutely not. He's like, then don't worry about it. You got it. And then and he's like, so anyway, so then we just dove into it and that was an amazing experience, dude. The crowd this is the very first Huntington Beach. It was fucking wild. The crowd was crazy. We're doing commentary live while the dudes are winning the tournament in the sand, not on carpet, not on turf, in the sand. And then I went to Tampa and had an insane week with Mike Ricker, who ran that town because he was like the rock DJ in that town for like 10 years before that. And so we stayed at this mansion on the water with like strippers and midget radio DJs, like Dave, Dave the Dwarf was this guy's name. And it was wild. It was super wild. But they didn't have all their ducks in order. And that was kind of that. And when I started doing these gigs, I was a little deer in the headlights, but I very quickly started to kind of be like, well, what do you do? What do you do? Why are you here? Who's paying? How does this all work? And then I did that gig. And then in 2005, when we, fast forward to Excessive, that's when ESPN came in and then we did Miami that year. And that was a legit super good win for Dynasty because they won like 50 grand.
2005,
but a lot of,
right?
2005. Yeah.
That was dope.
And so I got a call from Chuck Hench and he said, hey, we want you to host the show with Trace Worthington, who was a champion, Olympic champion ski jumper. And so he was my co-host for that. And then I went to New York to the ESPN studios for that one. And that was an enlightening experience because I played that tournament so we were trying to get another pro team in. So we went and did Excess Energy and we actually won Miami. So I had to gear down before the finals, go out in front of the whole crowd and shoot the opens to every single show and record those in street gear before I went back to gear up to go play in the finals to win that tournament.
Wow.
Dude.
And I had to address the whole crowd because they were getting pissed. I was just, constantly people like, first it was like, what's up, Matty? And everyone was super stoked. And then people were like, Matty, let's get this fucking show on the road. So I had to, and because Trace Worthington, God bless Trace, but he was probably a little intimidated by this too. He didn't know paintball for shit. And so he kept messing up, and which is totally normal. And so we had to keep doing it until we get it in the can. So finally I realized that he needed a little more time and the crowd was getting restless. And there was literally like pack stands the whole length of the field. I don't know, a couple thousand people there or whatever it was, maybe at least 1,000. But anyway, so I had to go and to address the entire crowd. I'm like, please excuse me. We are trying to take the sport to another level. We need to shoot these opens for the show that's going to be airing at whatever such and such time on ESPN. Can I get a fuck yeah? But that's going to be on ESPN. Everyone's like, fuck yeah. And then I was like, all right, please just give us a little bit of time. Thank you guys so much. And then everyone quieted down. But that shit was fucking intimidating, man. And then I had to go back, put gear on, and go win a fucking game to win the tournament so we could have 2 pro teams, which we did. And then we went to Huntington Beach the next year and took 1st and 3rd. So it was like, that was a wild ass time too. But
dude, you're a go-getter. Do you guys hear this listening out here? Oh my God, are you kidding me? Just go-getter, dude. They should just tattoo you with it, man.
Gotta do what you gotta do, bro. You know,
dude, and you do it, man. You get it done. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
It's crazy, Matty. You've worked with ESPN for all these different major networks. Do you think that that's what it's going to take? And maybe we've talked about this, but do you think paintball needs to get on ESPN or one of these mainstream media sources, or do you think we could do it ourselves?
Well, I think that we can't count on them. So my big thing I've been telling everybody recently, and Marcelo, this will probably sound like a broken record to you because I feel like we've had this discussion a bunch. But to me, we can't count on the cavalry coming over the hills to save us with a Gatling gun. That's why, we, with Paintball Access, when we went and did that with the webcast and how that became a thing, but that was just another situation where we were just lighting a ton of money on fire. And we didn't have a business model. We were just hoping the cavalry, we were lighting a bunch of money on fire, hoping the cavalry would come over the hills and start writing us $1 million checks. Well, and that's not, I'm sorry, go ahead, Marcelo.
It had gotten to a point to where it was sustainable though, didn't it?
Not through advertisement alone. No, it had not. We were still burning through probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 grand an event.
Not through advertisement, but through pay-per-view. Because that was a pay-per-view model, right?
Yes. But that's why we had to go to the pay-per-view model. So
gotcha.
I obviously believe in the power of paintball. I mean, it has captivated us. It's captivated. I've met so many crazy, intelligent, and fun people that are supermodels, business moguls, some of the funnest people I've ever met in my life, some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. All of these people, the common thread there is that they love the game of paintball. So knowing how it can touch a soul, I do think that it can be, quote unquote mainstream, quote unquote bigger than it is now. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I want to create an amazing show that the Mavens can be proud of and tell people about. I want to try to work towards getting guys like yourselves paid. That's because and also I've been trying to make sure that we're capturing these moments so that as long as the world doesn't fucking explode, that you guys can go back and show your grandkids. Like, that's the thing. I will, people will come up to me like, oh, Matty Marshall, Mr. Go Sports, and this and that. I'm like, I just nod and smile and go, yeah. But I had some crazy ass, paintball adventures of my own, and thank God for Patrick Sporer, but that's the power of story. Yeah. And so, the fact that he was able to catalog some of the coolest stuff that I got to experience in Sailor Killers and Sunday Drivers and Heroes for a Day and all this sort of stuff. But, thank God for him. But that was like, I don't know, maybe 1% of the cool shit that I got to do. So, I mean, some of the coolest stuff that I've ever done on a paintball field, like as a player, where you blow a game open by yourself, or you pull off a 2-on-8, or like, there's a few things. If you go YouTube, there's I had a really awesome game in a 7-man against Infamous in the finals where I shot a bunch of dudes, shot like 5 guys. So there's a couple of those, but I had a shit ton of those. Like, that's how I got paintball famous. But I got paintball famous before by being like a front player could crush it. But all that shit happened in the woods. So those, the John Richardsons of the world, the Chris Lasoyas for the most part, even the Oliver Langs, like most of their best games they've ever had, that shit exists solely in their mind and then in the minds of the people that they played against, their enemies. And thank your enemies, because if you don't have good enemies, you do not know what you're capable of, especially if it's just something, you're not necessarily playing for blood. So that was my motivation, was that I didn't want the next generation of paintball. So I would work with whoever I had to work with, do whatever I had to do in order to, because I'm not rich, dude. I'm living in a fucking 2-bedroom apartment here. Do you see Maserati in my garage? No, I don't have a garage. So
yeah, but we talked about this. You wouldn't anyway, right? Just point A to point B.
Exactly. But I'm rich in experience. And I get that. But that's my point. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, this isn't a selfish thing for financial gain. Right. I could have done much more lucrative shit. Right. But that being said, money is required. And so, again, it's a little bit longer of a story about how the webcast came to be completely, all the different TV shows. But along the way, we learned a lot of lessons because both the technological innovations like Moore's law, doubling of computer power every 18 months for the same price. Over time, we've, what used to cost, over $1 million has become a fraction of that. So thank God, that's why we can do what we do now. But that transition, it has been fraught with difficulty, and we lit a lot of money on fire. I can't just keep going to rich people and being like, hey, do you have a fucking pile of cash that I can potentially just throw gasoline on and take a blowtorch to because you love paintball, right? That shit gets old after a while, man. You run out of people. So, so as far as, do I think the game could be bigger? Absolutely. But I do think that we kind of lost a hook into the mainstream mind when we went away from playing war. Because let's take Call of Duty, for instance. If you look at a lot of the diffusion and incredible popularity of very brutal and gnarly games like Call of Duty, they leaned in to that crazy shit, we leaned away from that. We're like, no, they're markers, it's eliminations. I still have to argue this to this day. People are like, oh, you should call it eliminations, and we would be on TV tomorrow. And I'm like, first of all, being on TV is not the home run that you think it is.
Right. Exactly.
So let's just stop the bullshit right there. And then second of all,
especially nowadays, that's the thing. We have so many more opportunities where we can own what we do, and what we do is amazing. And the I don't like to call it the violence behind the sport, not because I want to be PG, but I actually do think there's just a lot more artistic stuff about paintball. But the rawness of paintball is what we should be selling, because so many of us love it, that experience it. Yeah, but to me, it's like violence from afar. It's if even that.
Well, that's the crazy thing about paintball. There's kind of a misconception of its brutality, but I'm way more like people who play football. I'm like, dude, you're
that's
savage.
Violent.
Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
there's a weird misconception with paintball that think it's dangerous, but actually, I was going to be a pro skater before I did paintball. Like, that was my passion. I wanted to do that. But then I found paintball way more. I was like, yo, this is a lot safer. I could have a lot longer career here. I'm going to do paintball, and it's something that is sustainable. Like, I could have a long career playing paintball because it is actually a safe sport. No lie. Like, yeah, you're going to get pelted up. You might, at the highest level, we run into each other, this, that, and other, but it's a safe sport.
I think aggression, I think aggression for me, I like the word aggression more than violence. I think it's an aggressive sport.
Well, it was violent. It was a lot more violent.
Well, I was gonna say. I mean, maybe we should go back to 15 balls a second. That was a little more violent. 15 balls a second. They still roll like that over in Australia. And when you bunker somebody,
it's violent.
It's a little more violent than this 10 ball a second stuff we got going on.
Dog, we need to go back to 2003 when little Tyler, 13-year-old Tyler Harbin shooting a fucking laser beam of paintballs, bro. When I was shooting a Matrix.
Dude, and Matty, I can shoot so fast. I can, like, my fingers go so quick too. And then you add in the Bob Long Timmy and it's a done deal.
I remember we would go up and Bob Long would roll out. And he'd be like, Matty, shoot my new gun, and he would give me this thing. And it would be like, what I had was a slingshot compared to what this dude had. And I remember going, I don't even know if you were there, Tyler, at the time, but I remember going up to some of the Bobby's guys, the assassin dudes at World Cup, because we got the DMs finally with the Aggie cheater crazy
the Matrix
boards. Yeah, the fucking Matrixes that were shooting no joke, like 25 balls, like as fast as a Halo could feed. That's what it was shooting. Yeah. And so that year, Yosh and I were both shooting single trigger Matrixes, the box ones, with no that whole 2003 year. We had slingshots out there, and it was like, I feel like that. And then we roll up and we get those, bro. I had this walking bunker. I had a pretty good tournament, and I was just like, dude, I went over to some of the guys. I was like, you motherfuckers, how did you not win every event this year? You've had this shit all year long. Are you kidding me, dude? This is insane. Like, this is the game changing shit. Yeah. Dude, and then but then the next year I get sponsored by War Games, and that first year that I was sponsored by War Games, I should have got a fucking medal for everyone that I shot. Because that gun, I love autocockers, but the next year that thing was actually going 15 balls a second, and that was much better for me. But that first year, like, it paid the rent. I wrote an article one time called "An Autococker to Pay the Rent," but it was homage to Bukowski, Charles Bukowski, thing called a 45 to pay the rent. But
dude.
But yeah,
it was a different day for sure at that time.
Totally.
Sorry,
though,
wild,
I kind of got us off on this one. This one was kind of my fault. But back into what we were talking about with paintball. I think that we don't need to soften it up. We don't need to misrepresent what our sport is. I think it's not like 20 years ago where if you didn't get a TV deal, you're not going to get noticed. There's so many opportunities for us to find new ways for new people to learn about our sport. So we can be whatever we want to be. And I believe we have something that a lot of us truly love. And there's a reason we love it. It's because it's fucking sick. It's badass. There's a lot of amazing things about it. And so we got to tell those stories more. And Matty, you and I have talked about this plenty of times. The stories of the pro players, the stories that you have told us on this podcast, this one and the last one, about your trips overseas and the friendships and the memories and relationships and life lessons. All of that stuff is so important for us as professional paintball players to be telling nonstop. That's again a reason Tyler and I wanted to do this show, because what we get to do, the lifestyles we live, is exciting as fuck. It's really cool. That is enough for people that don't understand the game to be like, I want to try that. That's pretty damn sick. Yeah. And 20 years ago, you didn't have that opportunity. If it didn't make it on TV, how else do you really, I mean, maybe you could be in the newspaper or some kind of magazine, and we talked about that too, but we truly have the opportunity now to be whatever we want and be seen by
the game
and play the game.
Yeah, where's my hat, dude? It's messed up. I need
it's on its way, baby.
I got my Padres hat and shit.
We're gonna get you a special one, like different nice embroideries. It's gonna be nice. We're getting something special for you.
Hell yeah. No, Marcelo, I totally agree with you. I just think that it's like I've seen there's so many different ways to go with this. I've seen the video game side of things, the TV side of it, magazine side of it, webcast side of it. That talks with all the. So I'm so pissed Tim died, man. Like I feel like Tim got it.
I know.
And we'd had so many good conversations about 10-man, about X-ball, about the game, like where we needed to go, what we were gonna do, and just such a fucking huge crushing loss for the sport.
Huge loss. And
Jeez,
so many people don't even know what the sport lost because they don't know Tim. And
that's right.
Tim wasn't the type of person that would just go and put it out about himself. He truly did it from the love of the game, but his peers knew exactly how important he was. And, in a way, he will always remain very important to the game because that spirit will live on. And I like to think that a lot of us are going to try to carry that on as much as we can. But you're right. He got it. And I was lucky over the last couple of years.
We bought him a statue. He's living on. This man is living on.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's
10,000 years from now, they're going to be like, and here we have this, we're not exactly sure what paintball is. Paintball, it involves a ball and paint. And apparently this was their god, Tim Montreter. Yes. He must have been a very charismatic god because they somehow decided to put a statue of him in the middle of Pennsylvania. But we've
birthplace of America.
We've recovered a lot of these paintball artifacts from different places, but this is the only bronze statue, so he must have been their god. Which I'm cool with, like I'm totally
me too,
cool with
dude.
I think that's amazing.
No better man deserves that than Tim.
Tim's got to be smiling down, laughing at us right now for having this conversation. God bless Tim, dude.
Dude,
damn.
Yeah. My heart. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely.
But he was in tune with what we need. I mean, we had just so many conversations even before he started the Iron City Classic, and then how popular it had become. Again, to put it in context, the very first World Cup I ever went to in 1994. When I was 16, 72 10-man teams. He sold out 72 10-man teams in 5 minutes. That's how popular just that one side of things. That's why I have a little hard time with the people like paintball's dying, fucking this and that. And I'm just like, dude, do you have any idea where we came from? At all?
Context. No context.
So I do feel that even obviously we're living in this specific crazy and gnarly 2020, but I do feel very confident. But I just think that, to me, it's a multi-tiered situation that we need to present multiple levels of very well produced and fascinating visual perspectives of different types of competition. So we have the 1-on-1 now, and then we have 5-on-5. So it's like, think about it. You have your heroes, right? So when I see Tyler Harmon go play Matt Jackson, and it's like, you know, and for the finale, we're putting up $7,000 for it, you know, so it's like if you go win the finale, you get to win $7,000.
There we go.
For first place.
Yeah.
But you have to take first or second in one of the tournaments to assure so you have to earn your right to play in the finale. That's so right. As it stands, it's just Meter Ninios and Matt Jackson there. Obviously, two's going on right now, but let's just say it's you and Matt, right? So it's like you have these two heroes that fight each other at the highest display of paintball capabilities you can see. Let's just pretend that it's you guys, you two. And then, but then if I take you and then I put you in the framework of a 5-on-5 game. So now I'm watching the hero participate in this drama of this battle that's happening where that's 5-on-5. That's currently what we have. So for me, ideally, in order for paintball to really truly be as popular and as mainstream as we can possibly get it, the format that I think needs to be that I think can be that. I don't think I say it needs to be that, but I just think it has the best chance, knowing what's currently popular in the world, is that if we could do some sort of like, you know, like a picture like a Call of Duty map, 20-on-20 or 30-on-30, where, you know, so it's like I got my heroes playing 1-on-1. Now I have my crazy heroes playing 5-on-5. But if I can take that and put them in to like a full day battle where the shit's like a fucking war, and we have like first person perspective videos, we have the whole entire field rigged with cameras, like the whole entire deal is all like
this
laid
is my
out.
dream. Yeah. This is my dream. What you're talking about.
Yeah. You know, so to me, something like that, that would be the magic ticket, because then all the gamers could watch something like that.
Right over.
Are you kidding me? If we had a real live, like if I could tell you, like, look, and this is already the truth.
Look,
it's like,
pussy,
cool,
you can step out of the video game.
Exactly.
And go play
like,
out.
Dude, Call of Duty's tight. Like, let me see your Instagram photo about you all murdered out in your fucking skull mask, fighting an imaginary helicopter, and so you can move your fucking thumbs around to pretend to kill people. Oh, that's super fucking cool. No, don't get me wrong. Like, I like video games. Video games are rad.
Oh, me too, for sure.
But I gave up. Like, as much as I fucking love video games, I realized like I don't have a lot of time on planet Earth. So I consciously decided to, like, this a couple years ago, because I want to do a history podcast. This is like my thing that this has been the thing I've been kind of like working on the sidelines. But so I've just been what I call story farming. But I really enjoy reading the fuck out of, as Marcelo well knows, like just reading about how the world works. You know, science, technology, history. You know, just story farming. And
as the Akashic records do. You know?
I got to keep plugging in, man. You got to keep plugging into that shit, you know, in order to get it. But and I just find it just so sublimely fascinating how we all got here. But that being said, I'm sorry, you got something for me?
Yeah, real quick. Like, we've kind of talked about this, but how cool would it be to have something where you choose 5? Honestly, I think 5 could probably get it done. 5 of the best pros that you want to choose, and you put them on this Call of Duty style map against 100 professional athletes from other sports that have never played paintball.
We'd murder them. We've done that.
We would murder them. Dude. I know, but can you imagine capturing that on film? Like, you have all the Clippers play, the Lakers play. These, you know, these are real professional athletes that are celebrities. Have them come, 100 of them versus like 5 of us, and we just mow them down. People would be like, "What? I tell you, how is that possible?"
No, I'm 100% into that. It made me think of like bucket list shit that I've done in my life. And like, you know how Ray Lewis is famous for his pump you up speeches?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, Marcel, I think I might have told you the story. Tyler, I've definitely never told you the story before, but I can check off my bucket list, give Ray Lewis a hype speech off my bucket list.
Oh, wow, that's sick. What?
So I hosted
not tell me this.
I didn't tell you this story? So I get a call. I ended up I hosted this like charity celebrity paintball game in Hawaii. Yeah, it's still to this day the only time I've flown first class in my life was to this event. I know Marcel's like, what, dude? I fly first class all the time. You gotta get the miles, baby. And I was just I was just always on different airlines, and like I didn't have the ability to be like, I'm only flying on this airline back in the day, because the shit was way more like, save money. Anyway, so still only time I've ever flown first class. So I got a call because I ended up hosting the Jawbreaker series, which was like a video magazine series I did for a bit. Different story. But so I got one of the guys that worked on that, Sammy, he hit me up and was like, hey, I've somehow got this gig where we helped put it together, and it's a celebrity paintball tournament in Hawaii. You want to host it? I was like, sure. So again, you just get used to saying yes a lot. So I go to Hawaii, and we're staying at this like super nice ass hotel, one of the best on the island. and it's like Ray Lewis, Shaq was all put together by Shaq's production company, but he had made it into the NBA Finals at the time, so he couldn't go. But his manager was the one that kind of put it all together. And so we show up, and it's like all these NBA and NFL guys. And so, but this was another event that opened my eyes to production, because I'm like, oh, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Like this is a giant joke. Like it was super fun, but it never ended up becoming anything because people didn't really do what they were supposed to do necessarily. It was just kind of like, let's just get these guys together and see what happened. I mean, when we showed up this paintball field at this paintball field in Hawaii, and they had no protection gear for these like $1 million athletes. That,
no.
Yeah, one of the San Diego Chargers came up to me at the time and was like, you know, he knew that I was the pro, so he's like, hey, let me use your gun. So I had him use my gun, and so anyway, so they all go out there, and so it was a giant shit show. But I don't want to spend too much. That's another fucking half-hour long story. But, so
Matty, going to the refrigerator and getting a glass of milk is a 30-minute story with you.
This is a celebrity paintball tournament in Hawaii. This is way more crazy than going to get some milk. And that shit could, yeah, you're right, that could take a half hour.
I mean that with the utmost respect.
So to get to the meat of it, so it's basically like smaller DBs and like the small dudes, and then it was like the really tall NBA guys and all the linebackers. That was on one team. So that was the Ray Lewis's team. And Ray Lewis is a giant of the man. First time I met that dude, I was like, what's up, Ray? Yeah. And his hand is like smothering my hand. Huge guy.
And you're like 6'2", 6'3". How tall?
I'm like 6'1", 205, 210 pounds, depending on how much booze I've been drinking and what I've been doing that. But yeah, I'm not small. So this dude is just a massive man, huge dude. I get why he's Ray Lewis, and he's got a commanding presence to him, like the way he speaks, like his demeanor, the whole thing. Like he's a beast. So, but his team got rolled up the very first game. And I had given them a whole like little mini clinic. Here's how you hold your guns, how you look at the game. You know, just try to give him the 101. Mm-hmm. But his team got rolled up. So I grab Ray and I pull him aside and I go, Ray, let me talk to you for a second. I'm like, what are you? I was like, what are you the best in the world at? What are you the best in the world at? And he kind of stopped for a second. And I'm like, well, let me finish. Here's what you're the best in the world at. You are an elite level defender, one of the best to ever play the game. But what do you really do? You stand behind the line, the defensive line, with the offensive line, the quarterback, the receivers, tight end. You look at this, and very quickly, with your knowledge of what you've seen before and what you think you're about to see based on how these guys have set up, you have to make a quick read. Where are you going to go? Are you going to attack a hole? You have your call from the defense of what you need to do. But really, at the end of the day, you're reading variables based on what you see within the fraction of a second. Paintball is no different. So when you're coming out of your bunker, if you're not being shot at, process that information as quickly as you possibly can, because you're insanely good at that. Instant Hall of Famer. That's the shit that you do, bro. This is what you do. You process information faster than anyone does in your position. So that's what I need you to do. When you get to your spot, I need you to look out. And not only that, you want to be exerting your will on the play.
I love that you're telling Ray Lewis what you need him to do. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I was like, this is what needs to happen. And so I told him, all right, look, so you need to do this. So look out at your bunker. And if you're not being currently shot at, just process that information. You have to get to this spot over the snake side. It was like a shitty hybrid air. It was a fucked up field. But, And so you need to get to this spot if you can, if no one's shooting at you. And then you press your will on your opponent, make them react to you. They'll be surprised and you'll be able to win the game. He's like, and I'm like, you got it? And he's like, fuck yeah, Matty, I got it. Sure enough, the next two games, it was the best 2 out of 3. The next 2 games, they go out and Ray Lewis basically like single-handedly wins the game for his.
Wow.
And then after that, he got really into paintball for a little bit. So,
dude, that's awesome.
Right. So that's my bucket list. Like, give Ray Lewis a speech.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
I do love that we've had so many of these high-profile professional athletes getting involved in paintball, and we need more of that because it does shed light. You know, they're in the spotlight, so when they come and play, it inspires other people to play, and we need as much of that as possible.
Yeah, nobody does that better than Bear. I mean, down there in LA, he's got all these athletes coming out. And
that is what he does very well. Absolutely.
Captive audience, man. Yeah, they got the best field over there, and it's tailor-made for that thing. And that's a very important thing for the sport for sure. But again, that just goes to that argument where it's like, oh, when are we going to be mainstream? It's like, dude,
Yeah.
We already kind of are. It's just, what do we do from here?
That's what Matty, I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
Just today, there's more eyes on paintball than there ever has been in the history of our game. Right now, I think there is. Yeah.
So
where
do we go from here? What is the next step?
Well, we have to continue to do what we're currently doing. It's also interesting this conversation because in the pandemic world, it's like, well, so are we going to have?
What do we do from here?
I haven't listened. What did Tom say to you guys? I didn't listen to that because did that one come out yet?
It did. So they canceled the regionals. I think you mentioned that, and he has every intention of making sure World Cup can happen, even if he has to split it up 2 separate weekends, so that we have smaller groups. But every intention to make World Cup happen is what it sounded like. Other than that, everything else is kind of.
Dude, he told me I get a sidearm and we're going to World Cup. That's what he told me.
I heard that too. I definitely heard that. Yeah, we have sidearms and World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, so I just again, multiple pronged attack here. We're going to be riding hard with the one-on-one world for sure, because we can actually do that within the framework of the pandemic. That's only to get more and more and more and better and better and better. On the 5-on-5 side of things, we just have to, it's just tough because, it's very frustrating for me. I feel like we only have the nubs and I'm trying to tell the best story I possibly can. Because we're completely contingent on our subscribers. This is why it's so important to subscribe to what we're trying to do. Cause I need fuel for a race car.
I have 2 subscriptions to Go Sports.
I subscribe.
I
literally pay.
I have 2. Yeah. I have one for my own personal. And then I have one that I give out to, friends, girlfriend, family, whatever that wants to watch.
Yeah, it's the free rider problem. It's like for instance, so we're down in Texas the last weekend, and even though I could have got a bootleg hijacked stream, I didn't do it because it's just bad karma for me. And it's like, if I'm not willing to pay for the shit that I want to consider, that's why this shit drives me fucking crazy. Because when people are like, "Oh, this should be free," I'm like, "Okay, cool. Who's going to pay for it? Are you rich? Yeah. Are you rich? Who's going to pay for it?" It's like, you think the NXL is just rolling in money? Because they're not. I know I don't give a shit what you think you did your dumb math on and counted all when you went and counted this stuff. Like that, there was a shit ton of money invested in that. Like these leagues have never really been that profitable, to be honest. Like you go all the way back. So like even, and I didn't, I'm not these people's bookkeepers, but I've been involved enough to see, again, behind the scenes a little bit. And I did get to look at some of the PSP spreadsheets, which is probably the closest. And I did get to talk to a lot of the people in the MPPL, but the MPPL is not around for a reason. We don't have Huntington Beach for a reason. Like all these things were not sustainable. They were amazing. I'm glad they happened. They were great memories for us, but that incurred a cost to somebody. So we all got to have those great memories while somebody lit a big fucking treasure chest of gold on fire.
Jeez.
So that's just the reality of the situation. And it's like when you look at like the original incarnation of the USC, a lot of the sports leagues over time, it's difficult, so this is a nuanced and complicated conversation that, we could discuss this for a long period of time too, but so, and this is why I'm constantly saying this, and some people talk shit online. They're like, Matty, stop telling us to, not stop using our bootleg things from our buddies. And I'm like, well, that's the fucking truth, man. Do you want me to stop speaking the truth? Like I need as much help as I can get. I'm going down a dark path in the middle of the fucking jungle with a dull machete. And I don't know where, and we're trying to do the best we can. So if you either help me get up here and cut some fucking leaves out of the way and kill the fucking animals around, or shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me the fuel so we can do this. Like, because this like, we just need to, this like naive, we just need to show the world. If the webcast was free and more people saw it, it would be mainstream. Really? How is that possible?
Matty, do you think there's a way? Do you think that there's a way to kind of accomplish both there? Which actually, I feel like Go Sports has. Yeah, you guys released some of the games on Twitch. We've been trying
it for a long time. We do try to. We put every single time we put games out for free. We put games on Facebook. We put games out for free. We'll work with sponsors to put games on their Facebook things. But that's not again. The cavalry is not coming over all of a sudden a Red Bull executive is not going to see a free fucking stream and go, "Oh my God, this is the next big thing. Let me go and write these dudes a $10 million check." Like that. First of all, Red Bull doesn't want anything to do with paintball. So everyone needs to get that out of their fucking heads right now. Like that is not the case. Okay. They don't want anything to do with guns. And maybe some new people will get in leadership over there and we can get some Red Bull money. As it stands now, that's just not the case.
No, but I think there's other companies that would, and if Red Bull's not it,
cool.
Yeah,
go and hit those dudes up and get us a $10 million check. I would love for that to happen. Yeah. Please,
and
give me more ammo to tell stories.
Well,
for sure.
Numbers don't lie. We need the numbers first. You can't take them, a little dinky set of numbers and expect them to do anything. Totally. But if the numbers, money talks essentially, well, so do numbers to advertisers.
Yeah, of course, dude. I went to Dave Lyman, who ran the Warped Tour, and I got to sit in that dude's office. And for the very first time, we had the numbers from PB Nation, we had the numbers from the webcast, we had the numbers from the PSP. I brought a proposal to him, and he looked at it, and he was like, this is something I might be able to do something with. Now that wasn't like for sure this is a home run. He actually wanted to talk to me more about how we did our webcast, because he was fascinated about webcasting than he was necessarily, but he was interested. And then that happened to coincide with us having gone through a bunch of money, and Dave Youngblood was tired of again burning through a shit ton of piles of cash. Like we'd be in meetings with Dave Youngblood. He would pull a whiteboard out and he would write a number on the board. He'd be like, "You see this number? This isn't some fake bullshit number. This is real money, my money that we're losing every single time that we do this. Find a way to have me not lose this money," and then walk out the fucking door. So it's like, again, look. I have very little patience for people that have no idea of the gross realities that we've been dealing with this entire time. We've had paintball on TV, paintball in video games, paintball in commercials, paintball on every element of television, movies. Again, we've been on far. I've personally worked on all these things. Tell me what cooler event could we have done than ESPN in Miami at the time? And the Smart Parts show, different story there. Obviously, we could have done some better stuff there, but that was $1.5 million that got lit on fire. So it's just like, we've been doing the best. It's like all you can do is the best you can do with what you have, and we've done that every single time. So we're going to continue to try to do that. And it's
I like what you said, Matty. We already know what works. We know what is working because the consumers are showing us. We already have the numbers of what is working. Let's emulate that. And bring that into reality, and then we could have something.
Yeah, and we've never done this one-on-one thing. I really do feel that some sort of hybrid thing where, again, we've been beating this horse of, okay, paintball is airball, paintball is the NXL, paintball is this.
Yada, yada, yeah,
all these things are paintball.
Paintball is paintball.
It's all
paintball. Yeah.
Paintball is paintball. No, and now one of the reasons I love Tom Cole is that Tom Cole, like when you sit down and have, I know you guys had a long conversation with him, but he's forward thinking. Like he's willing to think outside the box. Yeah. So, I just think that because, again, we're in a situation where if you look at the history of paintball and where its power came from in the beginning, again, all bottom up grassroots growth, all of it, 100%. There was no big overarching corporate entity that was trying to sell people a certain style. And this is what this is, spoon feeding people or force feeding them. No, that's not how it was. It was word of mouth. Hey, I went and did this thing. Holy shit, it's amazing. Let's go participate in this activity. And very quickly, not only did a shit ton of people start playing it within the framework of 10 years from, the early 80s into the early 90s, but hundreds of fields all around the world, even thousands of fields, all became a thing. And that was all, again, just because it's such an amazingly fun thing to do, to go and play war when no one's really getting hurt. No one's really getting hurt. Like we said, super safe.
And you know what?
It's not,
if I could say something.
But
But
it is metaphorically violent.
Yes, it is for sure.
Metaphorically violent.
And you know what really fucking really bugs the shit out of me is this whole thing. Like, how do you think America and the world operates? War. So we stand behind all this war, but then you bring up paintball and people got a big fucking issue. It's like, we're just the sport. It's the sport of what's going on in reality.
No,
that's what life is a bunch of war.
To be fair, I think think there's a good percentage of the country that does not stand behind war, but that's another conversation entirely.
For sure, I would say that. I mean, of course, you're going to have both, right? But let's not pretend it's not going on and that it's not what is actually running everything.
But this is what drives me crazy about the people that look at paintball. Like when I say,
and it's not war. Paintball's not war.
That's my point. It's dude. No one. Okay, I don't. That's what I'm saying. We call it a kill, call it a gun, dude. okay, no one's dying.
Yeah.
That shoots paintballs. I've been detained by customs officials in a foreign country accusing me of running guns. And I'm like, dude, this is a paintball gun. Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's a paintball marker. This is it's just paintballs, guys. Like it's not based on gunpowder. I can't kill anybody with this.
And that's the other part of my argument is that we're not, like I was saying, it's safe. I'm playing a safe game. Like,
but
it's
again, but you look into what has leaned in to what it is. Video games leaned into what they are. First of all, so this is like when we had the rule set conversation with the Ultimate Shootout. And one of the things was, somebody was like, hey, we need this to be super simple. This needs to be something that I can explain to a grandmother on a plane. And I'm like, fuck that. Absolutely not. We need to go away from that. I'm like, do you think baseball is easy to explain to people? No, it's not. American football, for people that don't know it, is a Byzantine labyrinth of bullshit.
Dude, Matty, I use this analogy all the time. Growing up, my dad loved football. He would make me watch football with him every week. I didn't understand 4 downs. Why is there 4 downs? What you have to go 10 yards? What I didn't even know what 10 yards were. I was like 10 years old. What's a yard? Like I didn't understand football, so I didn't like it.
But it's jargon that makes you, once you understand what it is, that you feel like you have some sort of covert knowledge.
Yep.
And so when I watch like Dota, or when I watch like some of these crazy like online games that I don't play, that my buddies play, they're like, oh, bro, you got to check this out. This is like when it was first hitting the scene years ago. They're like, oh, bro, check out this game. And I'm like, okay. So I'm watching it and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I have no idea. They're like, this is the hero, this, and there's 100 of them. And then they got to do this. But essentially, I'm like, okay, it's 5-on-5 battle. Okay, I get that. Anyway, having like, that is not the way we need to do this. We don't need to simplify it and dumb it down so much that it's just this basic, boring ass thing. Like that's not the way that human beings want to get super stoked on stuff. That's just, again, we're emotional robots. The way our brains work, it's a very specific dyed in the wool thing. And if you don't understand that, but that's why a lot of these things have gotten, because once you're in, and you're like, oh yeah, dude, 4 downs, you got to go 10 yards to get the first down. The big dudes run into the big dudes and the little dudes run around. And then there's like the guy that's super athletic that throws the ball to the littler dudes, but it's like, it's hilarious to listen to people discuss baseball, football, or, even mixed martial arts. I can't remember if we talked about this before, because we've been discussing so many different things over time, but there's a couple of my friends that were literally professional athletes. Like I have a friend who was a professional baseball player. He hated MMA. He used to call it naked man wrestling. He would be like, bro, we're going to watch more naked man wrestling. The dudes, they're wearing underwear and then they just start hugging on the ground and grunting. And it's just not my thing. And I'm like, yeah, but sometimes they stand and punch each other in the faces. Like, it's too violent. I don't really like fighting. I'm like, you're a big, strong dude and we will get drunk at a bar and you'll want to fight people, but you don't want to watch these dudes fight for money. Okay. I'm confused, but whatever. But that's holdovers of that sort of thing. So, I remember that when I got together, my friends from high school, and we watched the Ultimate Fighter 2, and it went into overtime, and it was like this very tactical, wrestling game on the ground, and it was like objectively boring. But I loved it because I thought that was super cool. Because so this, like, it needs to be everything for everybody. Fuck that. It definitely doesn't need to be everything for everybody. And that's why I'm thinking, like, I think if we take this out like 20 years, what thing could we create that could be the most potent thing that would make the most people give a shit? I feel it would be some sort of hybrid between, airball, woods ball, but with like a ton of enough rules to make it fascinating, long enough that it's a crazy long battle. It's like, that has like a 3, when you watch a movie, there's a 3-act structure. There's an instigating event every 15 minutes, and that's fake. It's created. It's, wrestling, like look at pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is fake. There was literally a lawsuit where they admitted that it was all bullshit. And some people were scared because that no one had ever admitted that it was total made up bullshit. Like it was just acting. It's like a sports soap opera. But it's never been more popular. So, it's just one of those things, but because we are wired to love to watch athletic drama. Like
we want to be entertained.
So we want to be entertained.
Bottom line.
Absolutely.
We spend money on entertainment every single day.
Yeah. And we spend an insane amount of money on entertainment because, especially as, you know, it's like, especially now, you know, this is because we're all just trapped in these boxes, and the powers that be are telling us not to do anything or to go anywhere. And so, you know, if we can escape them, I would like to present some sort of fascinating paintball centered drama where I can put heroes in peril and see how they do, and then measure their wills and their wits, and commodify that and charge a premium for it. And then hopefully, as long as we have all of our costs covered, then those dudes get some of that fucking money, because that's my whole goddamn purpose here, is to get the Matty Marshall of 2025, so that he doesn't, you know, so he can be driving a Lamborghini around if he would like to, you know, like, now, again, that's not what I want. I don't care about that, but
that's only a couple years from now.
35,
Yeah,
2035. I forget how old I am sometimes. I'm like, yeah, the future, bro, like 2025, dude. Yeah. Like far as hell. Oh wait, that's like
that's right up. No, I hear you, Matty, and that's always been your mission, and that's why, again, you're so legendary in this sport. That's why I've always looked up to you in so many ways, because you had my dreams before I had my dreams, and you are literally pursuing them, and they are part of what I pursue and what I want to do in paintball, and goals that I have. And you are making a better paintball future for people like Tyler and myself, and the kids that are listening to this show. And so, I mean, we can't thank you enough, and we're excited to help in any way we can.
That's what I was just going to say. Sign us up, dude. Whatever you need, we're here for you all the way.
I'm trying. It's just, it's kind of like, you know, Mouse and I would have this argument occasionally, and I love Mouse, but you know, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling more of my giant ball line, but
dude, live it up, baby boy. Let's
you know,
go.
I'm on Play the Game podcast. Like, I'm gonna break the game, play the game,
play the game, baby. Let's go.
Like it's old times. But anyway, so, you know, occasionally he's really good at what he does, and so I'd say, hey. And then Marcelo and Tyler, you've been great at this too, man. You're a leading light, and Marcelo's like, you know, if I get a guest that falls through, I hit Marcelo up, and I'm like, hey, bro, what are you doing in an hour and a half? And then Marcelo will be like, fuck, I got this thing or this and that. Hold on, give me 15 minutes, and then he'll hit me back and be like, all right, I'm in. You know, because you understand, and because we've been having these discussions, and you just innately get it too. Is that, and I've said this so many times, nobody just wakes up in the morning and gives a fuck about you, your life, and your struggle. You have to make them care. And you make them care by telling them a story. And the better story, the best story that you tell, the better the story, however good it is, that is going to be the difference between whether or not people give a shit about what you're doing. It doesn't, because, you know, paintball is an arbitrary thing. You know, baseball, football, whatever the fuck. Like, these are skateboarding. Like, let's think about what skateboarding is. I mean, you know, skateboarding is a pretty arbitrary thing. Like, this is why it's so important to think about this, because this was a fatal flaw that the powers that be in paintball, because they think that they love it so much that everyone else is going to love it so much. You know, it's like whatever it may be, your wife, a beer that a restaurant, whatever, a book that you read, a movie that you watched. Just because you love something does not mean that somebody else is going to love it. And so you have to, if you don't have the ability to let this person know why they should give a shit about this one thing, and then when they see that thing, that there's something there, meat to dig their claws into, their metaphorical mental hooks into those things to make them give a shit. And so with Mouse, I'd be like, hey, and again, don't want to talk shit on Mouse, but this is just something that would happen. And this is a lesson to everyone that plays this game at a high level, that's going to come play at this game at a high level, is that, you know, I'd be like, hey, can we get an interview about this? Or you're going to go to this team, that. And he would be like, oh, you know, Matty, you know, I really want to let my game talk about, you know, have my game talk for me. You know, I don't really want to do any interviews about this. And I would say, you know, that's, you know, kind of, and he'd be like, kind of like Richard Sherman. Or not Richard Sherman, but
Kobe Bryant, is it?
No, not Kobe Bryant. Who was Beast Mode?
Marshawn Lynch.
Oh yeah,
yes, Marshawn Lynch. So he would be like Marshawn Lynch. You know, Marshawn Lynch notorious for not wanting to do interviews.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, look, dude. Here's the thing.
This ain't the end.
You don't exist in a world where the thing that you do is generationally known. People just, like I said, nobody wakes up in the morning and gives a shit about you or your story until you make them care. Well, for 3 generations, people have woke up in the morning and their grandfathers gave a fuck about what that football team was doing. And then they were like, hey, on Sunday, I don't care what my wife says. I got to trim the hedges. I got to do this. I got to do that. Baby shower. I don't care. I'm going to be watching this football game. And I'm going to have my son there with me too. My dad, when Tony Gwynn with the Padres, my dad used to die on the hill with my mom because he wanted to watch the Padres play with his son occasionally, even though we never watched television while dinner happened. Every now and then, if the Padres are doing good, he would just break the mold and be like, you know what? And my mom would be like, no, we need to do that. And I love my mother, but she wasn't a big sports fan. She was a dancer. That was her thing. She ran the dance program at UCSD. Thank God I had that experience in my life to have that type of thing, and I love what my mom gave me. But she wasn't into that. My dad would be like, no, me and my son, we're watching this. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury. We don't have generational knowledge of what it is that we're trying to do here. The stories around it, the characters that are involved in this sports soap opera. We don't have that. So cool. If you want to be, one of the best guys that I got, a guy that will occasionally give me a no bullshit interview, doesn't want to do fucking interviews because you want to let your game speak for yourself, bro. All right, well, you're fucking the rest of us and you're fucking the sport. So cool. If that's what you want to do, then, I'm never going to tell anyone what they have to do. But I would really appreciate if you would show the fuck up and tell your story so we can make people care, because we don't have generational knowledge of paintball.
Tyler and I have, we've been talking about that on one of the shows. It was just him and I. We were talking about professional paintball players have a responsibility to the game to share their message and build their brand, and it's not for these self-righteous reasons, actually, and some of them like to look at it that way, but actually it's for spreading
the game. We need help.
The game. Yeah, we need help. We need help. We need help.
Guys, we need your help.
We need help.
Yeah. We need your help.
Seriously, that's what it's about. We need your help. If you're listening and you're a young up and coming player, please just help us.
Start your YouTube channel. We had this conversation with Ronnie Dizon, another dude that totally gets it. Ronnie gets it. Yeah,
for sure. And Ronnie, also similar because he even asked me early on. He's like, "How do you do with the haters in your time? Because you've been in front of the camera since you were 20." And I was like, it's been hard. But you got to just say, say it anyway, right? It's like that whole famous thing where it's like, oh, people are going to talk shit, say it anyway. Yeah. People are going to like what you say it anyway. But it's still hard for me. It's hard. It's part of it.
Well, what's made it easier for me, Matty, is I've done my best to try to come up with a good moral compass that I know I want to live by. And with that, if I believe that I'm following that moral compass that I've spent time and effort into objectively looking at and saying, this is the right thing to do. If people hate on that, I do not care, because I know at the end of the day, I'm in line with my beliefs, and what I feel is, I feel like I act with integrity in that way. And if people hate on it, which they do all the time, and people are always going to hate on stuff that you do, no matter what decision it is, no matter which route you go, there's going to be people that hate. So the important thing is to come up with that good moral compass first, something that you truly believe in, that you can objectively look at and say, that is the way I want to be. Those are the type of actions I want to do. And then from that time forward, who cares? Who cares what they say? And, there's times where sure they might make you question, you might make mistakes, because there's times where I've slipped up and haters make me realize, damn, okay, that actually was a little insensitive to what my normal beliefs are. And you learn from that, and so there's a lot of ways to look at that.
Do you guys remember that, the Teddy Roosevelt quote, "The man in the arena"?
Give it to us.
Have you guys heard this one before?
I just remember carry a big stick.
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah.
There's a.
I went to Roosevelt High School, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why, again, just real quick, Marcelo, I'm with you 100%. It is difficult, dude. If you're going to be honest with yourself, you're going to be honest with your friends, honest with your audience. Yeah, totally. It's fucking hard, man. It's hard to be flayed open in front of people. It's very, very difficult because
when they have salt in their hand ready to throw it on that wound.
It's easy. This is a mandate for everything that exists. This is like a little tiny microcosm conversation of the macrocosm of all the crazy shit that's happening right now in the world. It is so easy to tear things down. It is so hard to build shit. Think about anyone that's done any demo on anything. If you've gone in and destroyed something, whatever that may be. It could be creative destruction. You're going to build a new house, but anyone that's destroyed anything, it's actually pretty fucking simple. You take a sledgehammer, give you a couple minutes, you can and with enough force, you can take down whatever you want. It's so hard to build things. You have to measure, measure twice, cut once. You have to have plans. You have to discuss with other things. You have to buy things. It's incredibly difficult to build shit. So it's so easy to sit there on the side and be like, yeah, you fucking suck. You're doing it wrong. Like you said, you should have done the other move, Marcelo. What? Duh.
Totally.
Why the fuck did you go highway? You should have ran the corner.
Totally.
Duh. I mean, really? Like, I can't believe you don't know that. You've only been doing this for 20 years. It's so easy to do that. And people think that's funny. And they sit around and they go, yeah, oh yeah, fuck that guy. And it's like, and it's so easy. That's so easy. That's the easy part. But it's way harder. This is why I love this Teddy Roosevelt quote, because he was a guy that, with all of his flaws, definitely had a very interesting life. He was a big proponent for the environment. He was very pro-war, but in the end, he lost some sons in World War I, so he kind of came around to that too. It's a fascinating historical figure. But this is the big thing with paintball. Boxing, MMA, those guys are really, truly playing for blood. Skateboarding and motocross, all these other things too. Surfing, you can drown. So this is one of those things that I realized, because a lot of people will be like, oh, paintball is extreme and it's like all these other things. And I'm like, okay, well, it is in a certain extent, because metaphorically we are playing for blood. It's the metaphorical death. But like you guys, like we've been discussing, kind of arguing back and forth a little bit, but is it violent? Is it not? But it is metaphorical violence. But at the end of the day, it is incredibly safe, which is why I think it has a very bright future in a world that is having padding put on it. Because I think with paintball, you can get the benefits of being in those viscerally, those like slightly violent environments, and get the lessons to resonate from that without really being in physical peril. And so I think that's a really successful thing potentially for us moving forward. But it definitely hamstrings us to get people to give a shit. Because when I watch an MMA fight, I know that one of those dudes could literally be going out in a stretcher to the hospital and he could die. Same with boxing. Same with all of these surfing, skateboarding. When you're on a mega ramp and you're going and doing a crazy flip. So again, heroes, history, ongoing narrative, spectacle, statistics. The spectacle in paintball, this is what I was talking about earlier. It's like a fatal flaw that we had, that we're just like, oh, people just are going to want to show up. It doesn't matter who's playing. It's all about just wanting people to, they want to watch paintball. I'm like, no one just wants to watch baseball. I do just want to watch baseball, but I know the story of the Padres player.
I was going to say,
and I grew up watching it, and there's a history there. There's an ongoing narrative that mirrors with what happened before. Is this guy going to be better than Caminetti? So there's all this different shit that's going on there. Or with football, fuck the Chargers because they left us and they abandoned us, and those goddamn betrayers. And betrayal is the worst thing ever. But anyway, but I still kind of want to know what they're doing, because I still, it's anyway.
Of course, it's in there.
It's in there, but with paintball, this is one thing we don't have. So when I'm having that conversation with a guy like Mouse and saying, I need you to do interviews, you can't rest on just your game, because to be honest, objectively speaking, on an airball field, what you're doing is actually confusing. It's not necessarily entertaining without prior knowledge of what the fuck they're watching, which is why future-wise, if we want to just be spectacally, objectively entertaining, the battle needs to become huge. It needs to get on steroids. It has to go way bigger, because that does actually logically make sense based on what we know to be true, with which is a direct correlation and parallel to what's happening in the video game world. And that's the same kind of people we're trying to draw in, because again, like with the conversation about the Ultimate Shootout, like I'm not, grandmas aren't going to be playing this. I don't give a shit what a grandma thinks about this. What I care about is, and I don't even really necessarily care about the moms either. I want the 12 to 15-year-old kid to be super fascinated with this, so he wants to do it. That's our future person who's either going to be a pro or be a customer or be a fan. That's the person that we have to entertain. So let me just read this real quick, and I think you guys are going to love this quote. I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's just probably the best version of this sentiment that I've ever heard. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms and great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst fails. But if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, baby.
You know, like,
yeah,
fucking A, dude.
I gotta
Jeez.
say, that's an amazing way to wrap this one up. Matty, we just did another 2 hours and let's see where we're at. 2 hours and almost 30 minutes. And I know we can continue to go. And I know Tyler has another question. Yeah, I just
no, not a question.
Oh.
I just want to say God bless America. And I no, seriously, man, like we have a beautiful thing here. And I just want to say how important it is to support everything that's going on. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. We got to support each other. And, you know, I don't advocate war or, you know, I hope someday we can get to a point in life where we don't have to have death. That would be ideal, right? We want to have people being okay in life and not having to deal with this crazy stuff that goes on. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, that I totally am for the movement that we're on and we just got to keep pushing forward.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Matty, dude, you're welcome on absolutely any time. I still have to pack. Tyler and I both have early flights in the morning to Boston. I'm going to be gone for about 12 days. Before the show, we were like, okay, so we've got a hard stop time at 9:00 tonight, right? And then we kind of forgot to tell you before we started, and now it's 9:50. We're like, oh man, dude, I love you to death. We could talk for days. That's why we do talk for days. But hey,
we can do this again whenever you want. Yeah. This is not going to be the last conversation. Awesome. We can do this on a regular basis whenever you guys want. We can keep, because honestly, it's important to keep this an ongoing conversation with the people that are, you know, again, like, and this is a real thing. You know, look, we're trying as hard as we can to do what we can with what we have. It is difficult. I don't get to go consult the old guy who is like, well, the last time we did paintball webcasts and, you know, the last time this shit made it mainstream, what happened? You know, that's not our, we don't have that. That's not it. So we are trying to do the best we can. Yes. We appreciate your patience. We will accept anyone that would like to help us. Yeah, I'll throw the bat signal up, dude. If you got a talent, you know, hook us up. But I love the fact that you guys are doing this, man. The second that this happened, I was like, of course, thank God. I was so happy that both you guys decided to not just dangle your foot in the storytelling arena, that you dove in head first and that you just been attacking guests. Fuck yes, dude. I'm all about it. Thanks, I will come on anytime you guys want, because we are all in this together. It's like I always tell guys, I may even, Marcel had said this to you before, we are in the same army fighting the same war. We're just on different hills, dying different deaths occasionally, you know, and sometimes we're dying together, but we're still all trying to accomplish the same goal. And that goal is to try to, you know, make people understand how amazing this game is and what a it's like, I listen to people just talk about how amazing all these different things are, and they are all amazing. Yeah. You know, bow hunting, jujitsu, all this different other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that stuff's awesome. But you know, and I still, and like, I know we've gotten to some good stories. I still got like a billion and one stories.
Of course, dude, they'll never end. I
still got like force on force training stories with military guys, like all that, like all this other crazy shit. So like, yes, we got to do it.
But you're right, dude. There's nothing better than paintball, and that's what our mission is, man. Grow the game, play the game, have fun, and let's just keep nurturing this. That's what it's all about. We got to nurture this. And please, for God's sakes, if you're out there, help us keep growing this. And, you know, let's keep boosting each other and growing this till the top.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. So, yeah, for sure. Again, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Again,
dude.
Subscribe to Go Sports. We got some one-on-one crazy battles. Yes. Marcel, we got to get you guys in there. Yes. I would love to have you guys get in there and go and win the $7,000 at the end of the year. That would be, that would be good for you guys' bottom line. That's my fucking point. That's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to get everyone paid eventually. So actually, before you go, give the listeners some info on where they can go to help on your mission that you're on here. GoSports.com. Look, dude, I don't own this company. I just work with these people because they believe what we believe. We're trying as hard as we can. We're not all perfect, but we're in this COVID world. We have the ultimate shootout. We may be even doing some other stuff, man. Like with the NXL not doing some stuff. We may be trying to come up with, you know, some random events. We don't know. We're all just flying by the seat of our pants right now. But right now, we have episode 2 is about to drop, and it was a crazy battle. There are some shockers in there. Can't do any spoilers, obviously. But what you think is going to happen may or may not happen. But it is but it's going to be a really fun event for everyone to watch. You can see the possibilities of the format. And then we just filmed 3 and 4. I literally just got back from driving to Texas for that. And but we're going to keep this going. We know Paintball Fit is a great spot to do it, socially distanced. Obviously, Texas is a hot spot, but like everyone's trying to do their due diligence. We're trying to do the best we can. Please help us out with that, though, because if we can't summon the fucking spirit of the paintball world to get behind this, I don't know where we go from here. You know, if this dies on my watch, on our collective watch, you know, I don't know where we go from there, you know, because it's going to take a hard reset and that's going to fucking suck. So please.
Yeah, so pony up and do your little $9.99. It's nothing.
Not that much, dude. It's like,
dude, are you kidding me?
Please, buy me a beer a month. That's, if you like what you're doing all this time, like buy me a beer a month, but do that by subscribing to Go Sports so you can watch all this shit and we can have a chance to like try to change the sport.
And this beer is amazing. I mean, you get to watch tons of paintball. It's the best beer you could buy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for what you're doing, man. You guys are super powerful.
You're our inspiration. You're our spirit animal, Matty. It's all, you know, it's the lineage. Yeah, dude. And thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for everything you do, Matty. We're gonna be absolutely talking to you again soon. These are too good. And yeah,
best
dude.
Just luck on your trips, dude. Safe travels, boys. Be safe because we need you guys. So
absolutely, absolutely.
Love you, bro.
Yep. Keep rocking in the free world.
Peace.
Later, brother. Peace.
Peace.
Hot damn. That is the Matty Marshall saga. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and rocking with us on the Play the Game podcast. We absolutely love you so much, and thank you so much for everything that you guys do for us. We can't do this without you. You guys are the air in the lungs of the Play the Game podcast, and we truly appreciate every single one of you out there who are rocking with us with all these stories and fun content and people that we get to have on the show. And we're very excited to keep producing and finding great stories and great times to share with the paintball community. So thank you guys so much. If you want to become a supporter of the show, you can head over to ptgpodcast.com and become a supporter there on our website. There you'll find all of our podcasts, all of our YouTube shows that are recorded as well are there. You can also get information on all of our partners and have a more well-rounded look at what they're doing. And we also have our store there where you can pick up some Play the Game Podcast merchandise. Or if you want to hit us on Instagram at Play the Game Podcast, we can always take care of getting you laced up with some awesome merchandise there. If you check out the YouTube video, I'm rocking our new shirt, our new Play the Game paintball shirt, and it's pretty cool. We're really having a lot of fun creating all of this stuff. And thank you to everybody out there who's rocking with us and supporting. Special huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. There's several of you that are helping us with Patreon support, and we can't thank you enough. We're actually going to be putting exclusive content on our Patreon page for all of you guys, and also going to be working on getting you a special discount code where you get discounts on our merchandise for becoming a Patreon supporter. So huge shout out to you guys. You can become a Patreon supporter by going to ptgpodcast.com, and there's the link there to do that. And we absolutely love every one of you and can't wait to get you guys a bunch of fun stuff to check out for becoming supporters of the show. Our website is built by Constant Pursuit. Rusty Glaze is making the most badass field and store websites in the world. If you're a paintball field or a store, you need to get dialed in with Rusty and have him make you a website, because he is doing cutting edge work to make sure that your clients have the best process of being able to navigate your store or field and get in contact with you and make sure that they are able to support you. So if you want to go and check out Rusty and his work, you can go to our website at ptgpodcast.com and also go to constantpursuit.com and see all the amazing things that he's doing there. Rusty is such a top-notch guy, and he goes above and beyond to help us and everyone he works with. So definitely go and support Rusty Glaze at constantpursuit.com. If you have any questions, you can always DM us on our Instagram at Play the Game Podcast. And we can't wait to keep making more fun shows for you guys. Thank you so much to everybody out there who continues to support the show. We absolutely love and adore you, and we'll have some more fun content coming soon.